So, I am joined today by my occasional co-host, Megan.
Hello.
Who most patrons will know very well because she's on there almost all the time. And also I'm joined by two members of the Femme collective that is an incredible new initiative for this year, and I'll let them sort of introduce it more. We'll start with Ria because you created the predecessor, Femme Film, and so why don't you tell us a little bit about Femme, and then we'll speak to Alyson, and then we'll kind of delve into the subject matter that why I've called you here.
Why I have called you to me. So Femme Collective is a bunch of absolutely amazing women who I can't believe I'm getting to work with and all of this stuff, and I'm completely honoured, and I'm kind of wondering why I exist within them all. But they've all told me not to put up with any imposter syndrome, so I'm trying not to. Who I met through podcasting, I met through all of you wonderful people in Comics in Motion, and I just wanted to find an excuse to spend more time with them, to hear their voices more. And so I approached them all last year and asked them if they wanted to do the Femme Collective, which is, I used to do Femme Film, still do Femme Film, but it's now part of the collective. And it's just a place for us, a space to come and talk about the things that we are passionate about, have some fun, also have some serious conversations. We cover anything really, so film, TV, I'll let Alyson talk about the amazing stuff that she does, fitness, activism, literature, creativity, poetry, anything really. We've got a lot of ideas. We're all trying to be sensible, not do too many. We'll see how long that lasts. And it's just been amazing. It's like every day it makes me happy. God, I nearly started crying then. Oh God, this isn't the time, is it? I've been unwell, so I'm a bit emotional. Like it just fills me with just pure joy. I'm genuinely about to start crying. Alyson, you go.
Oh, it's hard to follow. So she reached out to all of us, and we, of course, all said yes, because we got to hang out with Ria and each other. And I met all of you through Tanya, who was a part of the Femme Collective, and because I created and wrote a comic, Reburn. So I am thrilled at the opportunity. My show on Femme is Fine Cut, and we talk about a scene from movies, television, whatever media you want. Like a deep reading of a scene, and I love it because I have a graduate degree in film and television, and I made a film, many short films and a feature film, and I worked in television. So it's fun for me to have an outlet to talk to all these brilliant people I know about things that matter to us and how media impacts us and shows us things and helps us understand ourselves. Because I think sometimes we forget how important it all is to us in our lives. And recently I talked with Pamela Ribben, a friend of mine who's nominated for an Oscar, and it was so great to have an excuse to sit down and talk with her about her incredible career and her project, My Year of Dicks, and to say dicks as many times as possible in a short podcast. So, and today we're here to dicks are involved, but that's not the main topic.
Well, and also, I've been listening to that episode. I haven't finished because I started earlier today. And yeah, it's a really, really fun podcast. And the two of you just have so great chemistry hearing you talk about it. And Megan, I didn't tell you, she was a screenwriter for Moana as well, wasn't she?
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
That's cool.
So she's done loads of other things, or not to reduce her down to that one thing. It's like a resume of an incredible amount of things, but that stood out to me when I saw the description. I was like, oh, that as well as, creating something called A Year of Dicks is like those two things immediately.
Quite a restrained response from me about Moana, because as you know, I love Moana a lot. And when she sent through everything and I looked at it, like the show notes, and basically she just got a message from me, which was basically what the fuck, Moana? And I was trying to be not like, could you make her be my instant friend, please? Calm yourself down. It's like one of the greatest stories committed to animation and film, but it's fine. I'm cool about it. Fine.
That's a whole nother podcast. We went into that in Disney discussions. I'll put a link in the description, as well as my conversations with Alyson, because we've spoken twice before on this very feed, once solo and once with the amazing Elise McCall. But we are here not to speak about our creative projects, or are we? Technically, how does one...
I see what you did there.
Yeah. We are here to talk about something that I have almost no stake in speaking about, my opinion of. It's more like this is something that's really handing it over in a lot of ways. But I have got several notes from individuals who have gone through these sort of things, which at certain points I'll read part of. So we're here to speak about pregnancy and childbirth, and kind of basically as a man, a biological man who is currently nearly 30, the sex education that I got about it was basically, here's one video of a woman giving birth with very little explanation. And you just are male and you make sperm and it goes in there and there's an egg, here you go, there's a child. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, this is what? And I went to a Catholic primary school, so up to 10 years old. So my parents, neither of them are especially religious, ironically. And so that was it. It was that and one video about men. We didn't watch a video about women. The girls watched 3 videos about boys, girls, and both. And we just watched 2. About both and just boys. So we knew even less about women's biological changes throughout puberty, that apart from like a 2-minute snippet and animation at the end of one video.
I don't think we watched a video about the boys. I distinctly remember when we did sex ed when I was in primary school, so like 10, 11.
Yeah.
We got split into 2 groups.
Yeah,
we got split into boys and girls. The girls went and learned about periods and tampons, and I distinctly remember them throwing a tampon into the fish pond to see how it would absorb the water. And there's just all these goldfish like swimming around. And the boys watched their video, and then there was a video that we watched together. And I remember being sat specifically next to someone, and we couldn't stop laughing because, you know, penises.
Actually a hilarious word. Let's be honest. And when kids say it, I have to try and restrain myself from laughing at any time.
But yeah, we didn't learn about the boys.
Oh, well, at my school, apparently they did, but maybe it was rumour and stuff. But that was the extent we got. And then there's a little bit more in secondary school. We got a little bit of, here's how you put a condom on and things like that.
I didn't even get taught that at secondary school.
Really?
No.
Wow. So this is just showing of we are standard British individuals who have gone through the educational system, and apart from bits and pieces we've now learnt about because of our friends are having kids, we know very little outside of media and things. So I really wanted to get this conversation together because I imagine there's a lot of individuals like myself. I imagine more so biological males or people, biological males who haven't kind of gone through that sort of things or haven't been taught those sort of things. I want them to understand, while also there are probably other individuals who probably don't know as much either, because as Megan said, like,
I don't know anything.
So it's like, so it's going to be interesting to hear sort of 2 individuals who have gone through this, literally, to quote Halsey, in wrong way, I'm not a woman, I'm a god. And it's like literally creating life, like growing it inside you and creating it. So let's start with you, Alyson, to go first. With pregnancy and childbirth, were you taught much when you were younger, sort of growing up and things? Like, how much did you know before you eventually went down that road?
I grew up in a very household that shared a lot of information with me at an incredibly young age. So I knew my birth story. I don't remember not knowing my birth story of how I was born and the complications that I then, once I was pregnant, looked into and realized they're actually fairly common complications. And then that affected the way that I wanted to give birth, because I didn't want to have the same experience my mother had, because she talked about that trauma of birth quite a lot. And she definitely had postpartum depression, though I don't think she had that word for it, or that phrase for it. And I was around a lot of children, and I was around a lot of conversations, and I always knew that I wanted to be a mother. I didn't think that I would marry anyone, because I was in a situation where I was told I was not very lovable. So I thought, like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I do want to have children. And so I went into it fairly knowledgeable, and I waited. My mom was always like, don't have kids too early, don't. She had me like late back then. She was 33. And she was like, I highly recommend it. Figure out who you are first before you have kids. You don't want to be one of these people who like has regrets. That was actually a big piece of advice she gave me a lot. You don't want to be one of these people who says, if I hadn't had kids, I would be this person. I'd be successful or famous or happy or thin or whatever. You want to know who you are before you have children. And I really took that to heart. And I'm glad that I waited until I was in my 30s.
Yeah, I mean, both our mums are very similar ages, and they both had us
Yeah, my
Very
mum had
similar.
me when she was 34.
And my mum had me when she was 35. And so it's a more, it's obviously becoming a lot more of a common thing, mainly I
Definitely.
think due to social acceptance more than anything. But Ria, with your sort of, your history of basically sexual education and primarily focusing on pregnancy and childbirth, how much were you educated? Because obviously you were in the same education system as us, but at a slightly earlier point. So I wonder if it's probably, I doubt it's much better, but I don't know about family or anything if they spoke about it, because our family, my family especially, never spoke about anything like that.
So, school-wise, pretty much nothing apart from in junior school, a hugely traumatic video which involved 2 robots made out of household items like sieves and pans.
Oh.
And had a baby robot.
I did not see that coming.
What the fuck?
I did not expect
And
that.
I've not been able to find it since, but I've asked people like who were in school with me at the time. They're like, yeah, that totally happened. It wasn't like a fever dream.
Fuck, that's so
And like, there was like a Henry Hoover at some point as well. Yeah, like genuinely, like it's. And I swear to God, if anybody is listening can find this, can you just prove it to me? And the people who I'm still friends with on Facebook group, in Facebook, who agree that this exists, that we didn't have a shared fever dream. That was about it. And then in secondary school, boys and girls split. You got told you're straight or gay. If you're straight, you have children. If you're gay, you don't. If you're straight, don't have sex because you'll get diseases and die, and also just have babies. And then wouldn't that be rubbish? And then boys didn't learn anything about periods or anything like that. And we didn't really learn properly things about periods and how they would be even connected to having a baby. But luckily at home, my stepdad at the time was a very interesting man. He was a scientist, very straightforward, and so everything about that was open. If you had any questions, he was a man of many faults, but if you had any questions about those sort of things, he would sit you down and talk about it. Maybe not in the most emotionally connected way, maybe with diagrams of a uterus, and you'd go, I mean, I'm 12, I don't really understand, but sure, sounds great. And so there was some sort of like knowledge, but mostly it was like women have babies, they're in their stomachs. And I apologise to everybody, find this. I do not like pregnancy, do not like giving birth. I'm better with it now. I've been pregnant and had a baby, but I find it, there's a real name for it and I can't remember what it is. And I had to tell them I had it when I got pregnant. Where I'm quite physically repulsed by pregnant stomachs. I'm like actually sort of having a little bit, I didn't think I'd have some trouble talking about it, but I don't like it. And I don't like having to touch them or anything like that. I felt very different when I was pregnant myself. So I never thought I'd have children. I was like, I don't want to have them. I don't like that. And then I met my husband and all of a sudden I wanted to get married and have a baby. And I was like, wow, that's weird. And I was like, yeah, this guy makes me feel awesome and safe. And like, I want to like create a world and a family with him. How awesome. Let's have a baby. Which was very strange. But we waited. So we met when we were in our late 20s. We waited till our mid 30s. Because I'd never wanted to have a baby. It wasn't really something on my mind. And so we were also like, we're not going to do it when we don't feel ready and we don't feel financially secure, emotionally secure, or like 100% secure about our relationship. Because, you know, you're older, you've got a lot of baggage you've got to work through and all of that sort of stuff until we felt we were ready. And then when we felt we were ready, we started trying, although we had a couple of miscarriages and stuff like that. So then we had a bit of a fertility journey, which we didn't need in the end. Turned out we just weren't that great at putting the penis in the vagina, it seems, for procreation, for fun, killing it, like having an amazing time. But for making a baby, turns out if you really want one, it has to be quite boring, and you have to do like temperature checks and all of this sort of stuff, and then you've got to go, oh, I'm really tired, but it says my temperature's right, so I guess and then you're like, oh yeah, and it ruins all the fun if you do it that way. I don't suggest you do it that way. Do it the fun way.
I did not do it that way.
Rubbish. Absolutely rubbish.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We
rubbish.
already do it that way, so that's fine. We specifically sorry, Megan, it's over this amount of degrees. We can't
We can
possibly
only do it
canoodle
if it's
tonight.
36.4 degrees
Yes,
Celsius.
very specific.
like honestly, like absolute nightmare. And what the other case? Off track a little bit. So So I had a couple of early miscarriages when we weren't trying for a baby. That were pretty horrific. I was quite unwell with them. And then we had one, maybe two when we were trying. And because of that, I had to go and have lots of tests done, and he had to go get lots of tests done and stuff like that. And so they said to us, look, you're probably not going to we can't figure out why, but it's just one of those things. Like, getting pregnant seems to either be really easy or not really easy. There seems to not be like, I'm sure there is a middle ground, but you always hear these stories of like people have sex once and they're pregnant. It's like, we were like, how do these stories exist? It's not happening. So they said to us, if you want to do it, it's going to take a long time, but you should do the temperature stuff, like be fit and healthy, do all of this sort of stuff. So we started off like, great, this is great because we just get to have loads of sex, isn't it wonderful? And then very first month got pregnant. Gutted. Absolutely gutted. I was like, wait, what? I thought this was supposed to be like loads of fun. I thought I was still going to be able to drink. Like, I hadn't been able to drink since so we got pregnant in January, and I hadn't been able to drink since November because I hadn't been very well, for a couple of months, and we'd had like more tests and stuff like that. And I was like, hold on. So my last drink was like some terrible, really cheap red wine or something that I had at somebody's house party. I was like, this is the most disappointing thing. So yay, I'm pregnant, but also we're supposed to go out for sushi, and now I can't eat sushi. No.
Well, so before I'll ask Alyson about her pregnancy journey, but beforehand, Megan, did your mum talk to you at all about pregnancy or getting pregnant or anything like that?
I don't know if this is something that I've made up or something that's actually happened, but I'm pretty sure my mum had to have an operation after me and my brother were born because we moved her bladder out of place. It does happen.
That is a thing, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Then that happened. So I know that obviously we fucked her bladder up. But my brother was jaundice, so he was 3 weeks early, so he was jaundice, so he was super yellow. And then I came out blue because I had a hole in my heart and the umbilical cord was also wrapped around my neck.
Puppy.
So I know that much. I also know that so I was born in Italy, and my mum went into labour on the 19th of April. My birthday's the 20th. Went into labour on the 19th of April, and the doctors were adamant that I was going to be born on the 19th, so they wrote up my whole birth certificate. I lingered on for 40 minutes, so I was born at 20 to 1 in the morning on the 20th, so they had to rewrite my birth certificate.
Stubborn, even at that age.
Yeah,
even at that age.
I know.
It's the beginning.
Kind of go my own way. Thank you very much.
But yeah, so that's all I know. I think it's obviously somewhat traumatic having a child not being able to breathe. I used to turn blue every time I cried because I couldn't breathe properly.
Wow.
Well, I was also asking about if your mum ever spoke to you about getting pregnant or anything like that. No, okay. I didn't think she did. I
think she said once where I was conceived, but it's not like I'm going to go out of my way to ask my mum. My mum, I remember I was with my mum once, and so she's got this purse, and she once looked at me and went, I got this the day you were conceived. I was like, that's fucking gross.
I love parents so much.
My parents...
oh, no. It was, I've had this since your conception. That was the phrase.
Nice.
I was like, that's horrendous, Mum.
My parents used to always remind me, mainly my mum, whenever the nation of Turkey was brought up. You were conceived in Turkey. Yes, I know, Mum. You know that your dad had a vasectomy and then he had a reverse vasectomy just to have you. Yes, I did know that, Mum. I still remember from last week. Yeah, you were conceived in Turkey. I know, Mum. Thank you. Sorry, Alyson. Any fun conception stories of your own, and also anything you'd like to tell us about your pregnancy journey?
Which, sorry,
but
I was conceived, or how I
right at the beginning. Do how you were conceived,
everyone had
and
sex.
how that led into.
Wait. So how I was conceived? Sorry,
Yeah,
or my children? It was not great. My parents are divorced. It was not a great story.
Okay,
I did know the story, and it's not a great one.
You can skip over that. That's fine.
Yeah, and so I knew that, and then my birth, my mother was given Pitocin, which is to increase your labor, like your labor. It's really to get your bed empty so some other body can get in there. And then she couldn't dilate, and so they used forceps to pull me out. So my head in the baby picture is like very like squashed.
I have the same thing. I've got a dent in the back of my head right there where they used to call me the alien baby. Where they got
yeah, there's pictures of Mike as a baby, and I call him Megamind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. And bluish, I was not, I was definitely one of those babies that people, oh, she's really cute. Not cute. So that was that. And my mother's mom died when she was 3. So she did not have someone to talk to about this stuff. Like she didn't, I think it is a real gift if you do know your familial history, if you can know like how it trends for you, like how your body and the bodies of your mothers or, how it worked for them. And she didn't have that. And it was a real gift that I knew. So that I went into the process, like we were deliberate about getting pregnant. Like we didn't randomly get pregnant, but we didn't need to go through the temperature thing. Which I was grateful for because everyone I know who did it, it's just like, how do you suck the fun out of sex? Here's a recipe. And I did have a miscarriage before I had my first child, which I was pretty devastated by, even though I kind of knew because I had minor surgery and I knew that actually that was the second time. Sorry, that was before my second child. My father was diagnosed with terminal illness when I was pregnant the first time, and I was overcome with grief. And I miscarried not long after that. And I think they were related. So then I got pregnant again, and I knew my mom's story. And so I thought I might be slow to progress because she had been slow to progress, which means, do you know what that means? It means that you're not dilating in a way that makes medical professionals happy.
Mm-hmm. So you go from 0 to 10? 10. And that's how much you diet. Centimeters, yes.
Yes,
how
imagine it.
Yes.
Your vaginal hole opens up to let the baby's head out. For real layman's who do not know.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's what progression is, how fast you're doing it. And they expect it, if it's going well, it's quite steady, and they can sort of predict at what stage you'll be at a certain dilation. If you're progressing slowly, that's usually not a massive cause for alarm, but it means you'll probably be monitored a bit more, and they'll see what they can do to help you.
They'll get in there.
Yeah.
They'll get in there. And that, I didn't want them to get in there. And I didn't want to be pregnant. I didn't want to feel like it was a disease or like a condition that I needed help with. I feel like it's something our bodies know how to do. And unless you have underlying issues or, obviously there are people who need the medical interventions, and thank God they're there for them. But I didn't feel like I did. So I chose, the choices here were kind of like birth in a hospital or at home. So I did it at home.
Wow. Okay.
Because I didn't want them. I just had this feeling like I was going to need medical interventions, and I really didn't want that. And so it was a big decision because I sort of wanted to give birth at like a midwife center, but we didn't have that. We do have a hospital that has midwives, a teaching hospital, which is a good compromise. But I was worried if I was at a hospital, I would get interventions. So I stayed home. And that was a conversation with my husband and myself because, people freak out when you tell them you're going to give birth at home. They're like, what if you die? Is usually the first question they ask. Second question is, what if your baby dies? And then you have to say, well, I don't think that's going to happen. Like I've done my due diligence. I've read the scientific literature. I've done and I think actually my outcome will be better at home. Not in like a new agey, touchy-feely celebrity Instagram way. It's now become a much cooler thing than it was when I did it. And I'm glad that I was at home. I was slow to progress. And it took me like, at least, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but here, once your water breaks, they want you to give birth within 24 hours.
And
they will get that baby out.
I've noticed that's a very American thing, and very cesarean heavy, C-section heavy, and I definitely think in the US giving birth at home is frowned upon more. We have a very,
Definitely.
and I'm sure it varies where you are in the country, but in the UK we tend to have a very midwife-led
You do.
system of giving birth. We use this horrible term, natural birth, which I don't like. So I will be referring to it as vaginal birth. And, you know, intervention is quite low, and they try to not do interventions. It's actually, you'll get a lot of people who, when they're pregnant, will be like, will take a really strong stance, and I don't want a C-section or anything like that. And you're like, yeah, totally, because every woman should be able to choose. But if I go into hospital, then they're going to force me to have a C-section if something goes wrong. And then the moment you start having those midwives appointments and start doing all those things, you'll realise they're like very much like, no, you're going to have no interventions as much as possible. We don't want that. We don't want to cut you. We want to use forceps or suction cup. We want it to be very you-led. We want, you know, obviously it's about the health and safety of the mother and child, but we want it to be very much sort of like, we're involved, we're there for you, but you're in a comfortable and safe environment. It's not as clinical, maybe I'd say, as from people who I know have had children in the US. It's a lot more relaxed. I don't know if giving birth can be relaxed, but
And that's some of the stuff I was reading was in the UK, in Denmark, the Netherlands. Like that's where a lot of that statistical research is coming out of, and they generally have better outcomes for the mothers. And you usually find that there's less postpartum depression associated with births where the people birthing feel seen and heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
it's one of those things with it stems to the larger issue, I think, because of public healthcare. From my understanding, with a lot of things, when it's in America, it's like, oh, you have to have insurance or it costs you a lot of money, and like
well, I mean, having a baby, even if you do have insurance, it still costs you a lot of money.
One of your friends showed you the hospital bill.
My friend lives in North Carolina, and her sister, I say recently had a baby. I think that baby's now like 3, so it wasn't recent. But Mary showed me the medical bill to see how much it costs, and I was like, that is just nuts. I was like, it's nuts. It's so much money. It was like over 10 grand. It's so much money.
And that's actually not that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who've spent far more than that.
That's crazy.
And if you have insurance, like, it covers a lot of that. And that was also a thing. We had insurance. We pay for our own insurance. We don't get it through our work or anything. We pay for it out of pocket. And home birth was not covered. So it was like, so we would need to pay for it out of pocket. But it was actually less expensive in a lot of ways than doing it through the hospital, especially if you have interventions, and especially if you end up having a cesarean. And
the room's charged by the hour.
Yeah, that is definitely a principle. Like it is, expediency is a big part of birth here, and I don't think that serves the people birthing or the children that are being born. And so it was like, how do I take this back? Was basically my guiding principle.
And is it right with aftercare as well, if your child is jaundice or potentially has any other more serious issues when they're born? How does it work with the American healthcare system? If your insurance doesn't cover it, is it just basically like tough, or is it like, no, we'll save the baby and do what's right, but you're going to be slammed with an incomprehensible bill? Because in the UK, at least, the concern if something happens to your child is purely the concern of your child. There's never a thought of the insurance or other problems with it in that moment, I should say, you know. So I'm intrigued by that element, as dark as it is.
It's so complicated because America likes to keep it sort of as unnavigable as possible, because that's how they keep their power. But the states really matter. That's when where you live is going to matter a lot. Here in California, we have Medi-Cal, and we have programs that help people attain, and we have the Affordable Care Act now. So it's a different thing than it was when I was giving birth. And I want to say, when $10,000 is a huge bill, that is a big bill. But like, I guess what I'm saying is, and this is not something you have in the UK, you will get a bill. You are insured, but you will get a bill that will reflect what it would have cost if you didn't have insurance. So you have insurance, so it costs you whatever, $2,000. but you get a bill that tells you this cost $80,000 or something like that. Because particularly we have different types of healthcare. We have HMOs and PPOs, and this is another podcast that's sort of dry and boring, but because you have private corporations negotiating, everything becomes more expensive. Mm-hmm. And it's not a nonprofit model, it's a for-profit model. So that is why some people believe that we have such a high rate of cesarean births, is because they are a high ticket item. And there's research on that. Like, I'm not just saying that.
That's what I was thinking earlier. When you were saying that they're trying to get more people into the hospital and there is a higher proportion, I was like, well, it's going to cost more money, so of course they're going to do it.
Yeah. We have an incredibly high rate of cesarean here, and we also have a high child morbidity rate, and they're related. So it's hard because cesareans are an amazing health intervention that saves mothers and children's lives, as we saw in House of Dragons. That would have been handy to have an ethical, one that worked. But when it's used willy-nilly, someone is going to pay the price for that when it's not medically necessary. So there's a lot of, once you have one, you can't go back. Like, that's a whole thing in a lot of hospitals here. If you have a cesarean with your first child, you cannot then give birth vaginally after that. And it's a lot to navigate. And if you have the time and resources and privilege to navigate it, I think that you can with some success. But the reality is most people don't have that bandwidth, and it preys on that.
It's interesting you should say that, because we watch YouTube videos that are like misconceptions and they like debunk myths. And there's one of them that we watched that was about giving birth. And the myth was that you can't have a vaginal birth after having a C-section. So it's nuts.
It's a myth.
And these are American professionals as well. So that's crazy that the hospitals are saying that you can't have a vaginal birth if you've had a C-section, when it's literally a myth.
We'd never even heard of that even being a myth. We're like, how on earth would having that first affect that? Surely it's just per birth if it's necessary. Why would you not? And then hearing you speak about, it's much more common because it's like, if it's not out in 24 hours, boom. Whereas over here, it's like, we'll just
take
wait
as long as you need.
Sometimes it's like, if people come in, it's like, you're not ready yet, go home for a little while and then come back.
Oh my God. My friend went through 4 days. 4 days. I was just like, an actual superhero, and still had a vaginal birth. So when you go and see your midwife, you get all these forms and you get options. So in the NHS, you get options of what type of birth you'd like to have, or what would just be your preference, or what ones you want questions about, and you can tick it all off. I ticked them all off, including VBAC, which is vaginal birth after cesarean. And she was like, "You've had any children?" I was like, I haven't. I don't know what it means. But,
I'm down.
I'm open to every single option that is available. And she was like, I like you, because giving birth, you never know what's going to happen. She's like, obviously you can have a birth plan, but we have no idea if your birth plan will go to what it was. My birth plan did not go to any of the ideas that I had, and it changed about 1 million times. And the one thing they, funny enough, get very excited about is home birth, because they have, especially, so I had my child in London, they have fantastic home birth teams across the London boroughs. Like, they're so the moment anybody's home birth, they're like, oh my God, we're here, we could do it, yeah. So to me, like, this one midwife, and I was talking through all the options, she was like possibly the best midwife out of all of them that I had. She wasn't pushing it, but she was like, are you sure you don't want a home birth? Because I know our birthing centre's amazing, because we'd done a tour of the birthing centre, and I was like, well, I clearly want to have a baby here. It's like a 4-star hotel. I was like, this place is amazing. And so I really wanted to have a water birth as well, until it got close to us giving birth. And I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going to have an epidural, because this is like madness. And we'll talk about my birthing story in a little bit. But then if you get an epidural, you couldn't be in the birthing suites. And I was like, oh, but they are fancy. But she was very much on that. She was very much, like, we have the most amazing home birth team. It's nothing to be scared of. Went through all the statistics of how safe it is compared to hospital births and all of that sort of stuff. And honestly, if you are lucky enough in the UK to be somewhere where there is a home birth team, if I was ever to have a baby again, I'm not going to, I'm one and done, that would be my choice. I would have a home birth. One, because I've done it, so I know what to expect. But two, I think the support that you receive during a home birth can be a lot more, and this is just from what I've experienced from my friends and from being on maternity wards and things like that. You can experience a much more personalised, supportive birth than, say, if you were a person who was giving birth in hospital and then had to have a medical intervention. You were looking at an NHS that's under a lot of stress. You were looking at, doctors who are having to run in the middle of doing other things to come and help you. And of course, your care is always number one for them, always. Like, shout out to the NHS, the best institution in the world. Like, oh God, I love it so much. But you are looking at people who are under a lot of pressure, as in home birth, it's a lot more of your own time, much like midwife-led births. You've got people who are dedicated to you. And so if I was to do it again, which I'm never going to do, I would definitely opt for a home birth.
That's very interesting. And so at this point, I'm going to read out one of my friends' sort of comments. So I reached out, and there's a couple of friends of mine who are around my age, one of which I'll be able to say their name, but this one I will not. And so I'm just going to read out. I think they said I can say their name if I don't read out the last little paragraph. And I was like, because the last little paragraph they've described as TMI, too much info, but they're happy to share it. So I was like, yeah, their names are not relevant to you, audience. But so I'm going to read this. So get in. Right, so first there's a huge difference between the midwives and the general nurses in the hospital. At 6 weeks pregnant, I had a lot of pain in my left side, kind of where you'd get period pain, and in the end I ended up going to A&E, accident and emergency, as it was horrid. When they found out I was pregnant, they sent me to Princess Anne, which is a hospital near us, and there a nurse and a doctor looked at me and told me that I was having an ectopic pregnancy and I'd need a scan on the morning to check on this. I asked what this meant and was told that my baby might be in the wrong place and I'd have to abort it. I was devastated. I had to stay overnight. My partner wasn't allowed to stay and they had observations while I was in. The nurse at one point, she started a conversation and asked what I was in for. I explained to her what happened and she replied, "Oh well, once this one's gone, you can try again," which is obviously horrendous. To clarify, this friend of mine, they've had a child and she's a lovely little girl and she's perfectly safe. This is not going to be a horror story, to clarify, but this is something that she wanted to share. There is a thing called hyperemesis. I think I may be mispronouncing that. Imagine throwing up every time you ate or drank. I went through my pregnancy at one point where I was in hospital every other day on drips. What makes it even better is the midwife tells you that you have it, and then when you get really ill, you go to A&E for fluids, but the nurses don't believe you until they do a dip test. Your body begins to attack its own organs when it has +1 ketones. Mine was normally at +4. And then she said, one scan and my daughter had fluid behind her head, and they said we had to have a test where they take a sample from your placenta, but you run the risk of miscarrying. She was in the way of the placenta, so they end up doing another test 2 weeks later where they put a 7-inch needle into my stomach for the amniotic fluid. Then wait 2 weeks for the results, which were the longest 2 weeks of my life. And then there's a couple more little bits, but this is just someone's experience. I've also got someone else's as well. So this is my epidural stopped working while I was in labour and my daughter got stuck. It was horrid. When a child gets stuck, they run the risk of developing problems as the brain can become starved of oxygen. And then she said some too much information if you want it. Where she was stuck, I had a tear and they had to cut me in several places and in the birth canal. My internal stitches still haven't healed and they still hurt 5 months later. When I had my daughter, they became infected and no one else tells you that they have around a 4 in 5 chance of being infected anyway. So when you give birth, you have to inject yourself with a very large needle every day. And then last bit is also body releases a hormone that makes you forget all these horrid bits and then want another. Which is what one of my other friends said as well. And to clarify, this friend of mine is perfectly happy right now and their daughter is beautiful, cute. Such a cute little girl. And so that was just... I put out on to some of my close friends who I know recently had been pregnant and had children and asked if anyone wanted to share. So she wanted to share that element of birth. I know just kind of verbally waterboarded everyone. But do we have any sort of thoughts on those sort of elements? Alyson? I know it was a lot.
Oh, it's not though, to me, because I was the friend who everyone told their birth stories to, because that's just sort of my personality. But also, I was very interested and I knew how much I wanted to share my birth story. And I think some people feel like sharing their birth story is like telling you their dreams, like super boring and no one cares. But I do care. I have always cared. And so I've heard all of that before. And I have found in my limited experience, I'm not a birth specialist, but everyone has something that happens. So if you have an easy labor, you tear. If you have a slow labor, like there's just something always. There's no such thing as a perfect birth. And I wanted to say, I think the biggest misconception about birth is there's a right way to do it. The right way is everyone's alive and as whole as they could be. And whatever that is for you, congratulations, you made it. And I think especially because I am in the United States and I did have home births, I think some people positioned me as someone who had like done it the right way, quote unquote, because I didn't use medical interventions, because I didn't have an epidural. And so them telling me their stories and me saying, wow, good for you, helped, like their epidural. I mean, we have friends who had epidurals and they were paralyzed temporarily, and that happens more than you might think. And we had friends who had allergic reactions to them, friends who had cesareans, friends who had scheduled cesareans, and friends who had emergency cesareans, and people who the baby got stuck. And I mean, my kid was having a hard time getting out, and the midwife had to get in there and pull him out, which just doesn't feel great. And I actually think that talking about it helps with postpartum issues, because it's an incredibly unique and yet common thing. And I think when we don't talk about it, it feels like we're carrying shame. And we have nothing to be ashamed of. We've just done this like absolutely phenomenal thing. And why wouldn't we want to tell everyone about it? And I would joke with my friends, because one of my good friends gave birth just like 3 weeks after me. And so we went through a lot of this together. Like, she was like, how was it after? And I said, I just feel like I ran a marathon and fucked a horse. Like you feel like rough. Like you can't describe what it feels like, but it is. And I don't forget. I know people say that about the hormones and forgetting. I don't. I didn't. I don't. And I don't have a problem with that, because I did it. And we all, every single one of us that does it, deserves to be heard. So it's not too much for me at all. I was like nodding my head. I know a lot of people have had ectopic pregnancies, and of course, when I hear the word abortion, and that's something we haven't really touched on as an American, and my bodily autonomy being taken from me and other birthing people, it's devastating. And I think women are having babies older because of abortion. A huge part of that is abortion and access to birth control. And I think that politicians in this country would like women to get pregnant younger and have no control over their careers or the choices they make in their lives, and would like them to be hostage to their bodies. And so I think this is an important conversation, because it's great to have this information. And I think it's also important to shine a light on what it means to have a child, because I think politicians like to act as if you can just give birth and give it away. And that's not a huge ask of somebody to just be pregnant for 9 months and then labor and give birth. It's a huge ask, and no one should be forced to do it.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of the biggest things when I heard about over in America. I was like, that's completely outrageous. And I'm purely for, people should, I think for almost everything in life, people should be able to choose to be able to do whatever it is they either want or need to do. Over in this country, it's like, if you go to certain places, condoms are free, and then because of the NHS, all contraception is, or I think relatively all contraception is basically free. So it's just like it's a way to assist with people, preventative measures to help with these things. And when you give people these allowances, it's just like, look, if something happens that's out of your control or anything like that, or a slip up, you can course correct with your own choice. You can make that decision for you, however it affects you and however long, but it's still your decision at the end of the day. And that's what I've always had a problem with in this issue and others, is always just, how can you take away someone else, how can you just take that decision away? It's not yours to take, but they've legislated against it, but it's still not right. And that's, in many walks of life, that causes frustration. And in this conversation, obviously, we're trying to talk about all the variations of when one goes through pregnancy and when one goes through that. But obviously, there are times where people go through it and they don't want to. They
can't medically make it to term. I had a friend recently who had a miscarriage and she almost died from blood loss because she did not receive the health care that she needed because she needed to wait because of laws here. And women are dying and birthing people are dying because of these laws. And I think sometimes people don't realize how often abortions are performed for the health of the mother because of birth challenges or pregnancy challenges. And I mean, they pass laws because we aren't people to them. That's why they do it. And that's hard. I think it's hard, even though I know it intellectually, it's hard to be reminded of it legally, that I'm not a full person.
Yeah. It's just taking the rights away from someone because it's like, well, your body can biologically do something different to my body. And so I'm just going to, no empathy, nothing like that. I don't even think it's empathy. I think it's just core basic human decency, even more below that. It's just, I can't even fathom taking that away from someone. It's infuriating, but we'll try to course correct somewhat.
Yes,
because
I didn't feel like I could have this conversation without.
Oh no, 100%, and
agreed.
Everything you've said is agreed. So we didn't hear from Ria in this element. So
I'm trying very hard not to go on a Ria rant. I think Alyson said everything so beautifully and so perfectly. I will say the word I think it's taken about an hour for us to get to, which is the patriarchy. And
ding ding ding.
Yeah, we can smash it. And all of these things, abortion, not going to come out, especially is fuck the patriarchy, just fuck it. But also in birth, I strongly believe that those who perpetuate the patriarchy make us feel inferior about the way we give birth to separate women, so that we don't have control of our bodies, so we don't share our stories, so that we don't support each other. And it's all part of not giving us the power that we both have and deserve, and to make us smaller in the world. And so that's why these stories are so important. And your friend sharing that story, like, thank you for sharing that. It means a lot. And like Alyson, every single thing that they said, I was like, yeah. Either heard it all before or know about it. And as somebody who's had miscarriages, hearing, oh, well, at least you can get pregnant. Oh, this one didn't take, you'll have a next one. And often those words, because midwifery is female dominated, will come from women. And, internalized patriarchy, we're all it's seeped into us all. And that's why these conversations that we're having and people sharing stories, good ones and bad ones, and ones that people think aren't notable, like, all of these stories matter and are really important. And every single person who can get pregnant or give birth should be allowed to tell their stories. And none of it is too much information. You can tell us, you can tell other people. Don't censor yourself. Not only is that important for you, like Alyson said, for your mental health, but also for other people who need to hear these stories and not feel alone. I had postnatal depression and it was really awful. And the best thing I did was a couple of days after I planned to kill myself is I said to somebody, by the way, I was a bit off at this baby play thing that we did because I made a whole plan to kill myself. And then I had to go, rush to A&E and see their specialist mental health unit. And she was like, I feel like that too. I'm going to go and speak to somebody. And I was like, holy shit. So we've all just been going around, not all of us, obviously not everybody feels, but we're just going around these little silos, nobody to talk to, because the world's so busy putting shame on us about these things that we experience and that we feel. And fuck that. Just fuck it. We need to talk and we need to share. We need to stop putting up with this shit. There's no shame in anything. And if you feel shame, come talk to me and I'll make you feel amazing.
But it's one of the things I actually wrote down before you said the word specifically, shame. I wrote that down because it's like, with what you've been saying about the patriarchy and things, it's basically men in many ways have injected a sort of internal shame into pregnancy, even though it's literally the stage before creation of birth, which is the most incredible, magnificent thing in comprehension. To comprehend something like creating life is incomprehensible, and is literally a godlike
it's weird
thing.
Don't think about it too much.
I must admit,
strange.
it does freak me out.
It's weird.
It's mental, creating consciousness through, you just eat your stuff and live your normal day, but eat basically a bit more and feel a bit weird. Obviously, very much simplified.
The thing is, Mike, is
and you create a literal human that then
I
grows up
look
and
at my
talks to you.
kid and I'm like, you were inside me, and I find that strange.
Grew it.
For me,
Sorry,
she's literally made of me.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to my other half, but he did barely anything. She's literally made of me. She's made of my cells, of my bone. When you have a baby, whether you carry it to term or not, bits of that baby stay inside of you. Did you know that? It's constantly with you. So every single miscarriage I had, but not like a little bit, but like their DNA, it's in you. So every single miscarriage I had, that child is with me. My child will always be with me. I will always be with my mother. She will always be with her mother. It's insane that we can do this. Why aren't you all just falling at our feet at how amazing we are? It's mad.
I do that occasionally at the right time. I'll do it. That look.
That's not true.
Megan's like, you're such a liar. Stop lying.
But with
Just trying to impress the women.
with the parts of like shame, it's basically men have injected this shame feeling straight into the consciousness, and then internally certain women have been affected by this and then splintered and then are sort of doing a feedback loop into this shame that's being kind of fed into it by, and things like the abortion laws and that sort of thing is feeding further into it. And it's like one of the reasons I want to speak with yourselves is just because I don't really hear much about it. I can't exactly just go up to random people and say, hey, tell me a birthing story, because that could be very traumatic and I don't really know you that well. So like unfortunately our friends are quite close to us, so they've told us
Can you
things.
imagine if you went up to people in the street?
I think
Especially with my
people
hood
would.
up, like this,
Yeah.
hey, can I hear your birthing?
Hey, tell me a birthing story.
I'll puff my beard out as well and talk in this
Yeah.
little voice. Sorry.
I'm sure that's a fetish, Mike.
No, I can assure you
I'm
that
sure
No,
that
it must be.
Oh no, it is.
Oh,
no,
it
it's
definitely
a fetish,
is.
not for me. I want to clarify. That's
No,
what
I didn't think it was
that
for
is-
you.
No.
I was saying
I do
generally.
Yes,
Yeah,
not for me.
the way you said it wasn't. It's a
Very
little
defensive.
suspect.
Megan knows my opinion. I'm like,
It's birthing stories.
that's why I haven't named the camera further down, because I can't.
Oh, Michael.
I was joking. For God's sake.
Fucking hell. Have some goddamn decorum.
You just say it was my fetish. I don't think I lowered it down. I was denying it. You took
Mike,
it further.
sense the room. That reaction was unanimous.
It was exactly. It was like in harmony though, so I think it worked. That's why I'm here. Not to increase any knowledge, but to put horrible, crude jokes in the middle.
So, Mike,
Success.
so in terms of what you're talking about, you know that women solely used to be the people who were helping other people give birth. That men
Until the
weren't
70s
involved.
in Europe, wasn't it? Midwifery was only allowed by women.
And then,
Yeah.
I mean, and there are problems with that, and some of that is due to the patriarchy and men going, "Oh, we can't touch women; they're weird. We don't want to know about their
Dirty.
insides. We don't
There's still
care
a bit about
them,
that with
making them
periods and
dirty."
things. There's still a
But-
stigma to it,
Dirty.
unfortunately.
But
Stinky. I mean, those are the adjectives. Dirty,
Did you say
But I just really
stinky or
stinky.
sticky?
stinky. Well,
Stinky.
sticky, but I did say stinky.
I just really enjoyed it. But
You know.
like, you know, men then just had to get into a woman's space, right? And they had to be like, oh, we're the doctors, we get paid more, we're now in women's spaces, we're encroaching in this, you know. And I'm not saying that every single midwife-led birth unit's the best place in the world, but you've got to think about how men are bringing themselves into women-only spaces where women are the experts in supporting other people who give birth. And, you know, and seeing how then people who give birth are often shamed or have traumatic stories or don't feel like they can share their stories. There's, again, I don't know, I'm sure there is, you know, you've got to think about that in terms of how we now have medical interventions in giving birth.
How we've medicalized the whole process.
Medicalized, thank you is the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, all the testing, which is great if you need it,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone doesn't need it. Every pregnancy is not a problem to solve, and in the medical system, that is how I felt. And I had my second child when I was 37, and it was a geriatric pregnancy.
I was geriatric.
I'm like, okay, that seems a little aggressive. 37?
36, geriatric.
The way they treat, and I want to say one other thing about the whole internalized patriarchy, the whole like mommy wars thing. I don't know if that's a big thing in the UK, but
Yes.
it's a big thing.
What is
here.
mummy
What is
wars?
it?
It's you breastfeeding, bottle feed, formula feeding.
right,
Are you
okay.
using
Oh, some of my pregnant friends have said
nappies
the advice that
or
you get that you haven't asked for
nappies
with
or-
judgment.
NCT is a cult and can jog on. NCT is a cult, and I'm not
What's
paying
NCT?
to join a cult. It's National Childbirth something or other, and you join a little group. You pay to join a little group, and we tell in your local area, and they tell you about childbirth. But it started as very much like finding people who are going through the same thing as you and sharing experiences, and like really supposed to be like a bonding thing for people who are having babies. But it's become very natural birth led, breastfeeding, breast is best. If you do it a certain way, it's not good enough. Like they push a very specific agenda.
Yeah.
And so you don't need me to say
no,
more.
I got it. And the whole working mom, stay at home mom, all of these things that are trotted out like over and over again. And I felt like I had to just tell people, like I almost wanted to wear a sticker, like breastfeeder formula. I don't care. Like it means nothing to, by the way, it's not my kid. Why would I care? I got my hands full. Like I'm just trying to exist and do what I'm doing. And I feel like so much of that is created for content, for advertising. Like it's just a money grab. And it turns us against each other. And I don't really know very many women who give a shit. So that's the thing that I find really fascinating. Like, yes, there are those weird ladies at like the store who are like, why don't you have socks on your kid? They're poor tootsies. You're like, who the fuck are you, lady? Why do I care what you think? Yes, there are those people. But like most people I know who are going through it, they're not judging that way. They're just like trying to survive. And so I find that whole discussion very artificial. And meant to make us turn on each other.
But
and
it's
it
also
pisses me off.
Yeah, it's also really shitty as well because like especially with like breast is best and all of that. What if your baby doesn't latch on? What if it's not anything to do with you and you have to provide formula because of whatever reason? Like
an issue with your breast.
It is
milk,
like it's none of your fucking business.
Yeah,
it's whatever's best for it's whatever's best for the baby. Why are you poking your nose in other people's business?
And are you ready to sit down with me and chat about why I'm not using breast milk? Like that's the thing I also find really interesting because people just want to judge you like fast. They don't want to engage with the conversation about, oh, your breast milk might be poisoning your child because of some health condition you have or because you're going through something and like you literally can't do it or you just don't want to. Those are both valid choices.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, so that whole thing is just, it's so destructive. And I think as much as we can all pull back from it, the better. And you see it obviously on Instagram. Like you see it in social media people are monetizing that. I really feel it here. There's this whole like, I don't know, these ladies who live on farms and like have a bazillion kids and it's all like gauzy and beautiful. And I don't follow any of these ladies because I think that it's trash, but I know that people do and internalize that and think like, why can't I make my own jam and have kids and like do Pilates or whatever? And because it's not real. You can't do it because it's not real. No one's doing that. She has an assistant and like a nanny and a chef and all these things. And it makes me so mad. It makes me so mad because people are missing their child's lives, beating themselves up about how they're doing it wrong. And you never get it back. So whatever you're doing is great. Keep doing it. Do not worry if you're making your own hummus or not. No one cares.
Oh God, never make your own hummus.
I've
Like,
tried
have you
making
done
hummus.
it?
It's never as good as you want it to be.
not.
But it's so easy, Ria.
No,
like it's
it's
so
not.
simple to make your own hummus or almond milk or
Do you know how
whatever.
much stuff goes into hummus?
Yeah, and
When I
also-
made my own, I was like, I'm
I've
sorry,
tried,
I
it's-
pretty much thought it was chickpeas. I'm not here for any of
But
it.
that's the thing. And then you put the chickpeas in the blender and they don't even fucking blend properly. They just all clump in one area and they don't actually blend.
You've got to put like the tahini in and olive oil.
There's
and
so
all this
much
other stuff,
oil.
and I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I'm going to pop to Tesco's. Tesco red pepper hummus. Thank you very much.
I've got a jar of tahini that I don't know what to do with it.
Oh my
'cause
God,
I'm
I still
never
have
gonna-
it.
Yeah. It's just there.
Chicken satay.
You should make chicken satay.
Chicken satay.
I do chicken
Yeah.
satay
Slow
in the
cooker.
slow cooker with peanut butter and I use tahini paste. There you go.
Wonderful. Perfect.
Chicken
that's
thighs,
amazing.
tahini paste, chicken satay,
Okay.
a few red peppers.
You should. Okay, I would actually do that. Slow
Yeah, I would,
cooking
thank you.
is a fun thing. So
We put it in
Slow
Tupperware.
cooking is the best because you just dump it all in and it's done.
I have a
And you're
triple
like, oh,
slow
brilliant.
cooker. It has each
That is the
individual
dream.
each individual thing has its own temperature thing as
Because
well.
my
one
slow
big
cooker
single
is a
one.
slow cooker and rice cooker.
Ah,
and so,
that's
'cause
cool.
having a rice cooker will transform your life. I don't know if you've got one.
Why have you
I
told
said
her
the
that?
other day, I said
have you
literally
done?
like
God,
a
it's
week
the
ago,
best
I was
thing
like, I
you've
want a
ever
rice
had.
We
cooker.
haven't got the space
Honestly.
yet.
Yeah, you
sort out the
just do it, it's
cabinets.
worth it.
Sort out the cabinets, then we'll get the rice cooker.
So it's so depressing because you're like cooking, you're making like this wonderful like massaman curry that's been gone for hours and it smells delicious, and then you've got to take it out to put the rice in because you're not going to do the rice in the pan because the rice cooker makes the best rice you've ever had. And you're like, oh no. So I need 2 or the triple one.
We got,
Audi.
got 4 in total, 4 slow cookers in total. So it's good fun though. Omega makes fudge at Christmas. It's fudge in each of the slow cooker compartments.
I think you're already ready for kids. You've got all the
Yeah.
slow cookers you need.
Yeah, done.
So
Yeah, and
We
I
had
already-
some practice with the puppy.
getting up at like 2
Yeah.
a.m. to feed, and then
the
4,
difference
and then
between
6.
a puppy and a child, the one that we talk about jokingly when we got a puppy was no matter what you do to them, you aren't worried they'll grow up and be a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
yeah, and also
You know, it's like, oh, I'm neglecting you right now. I don't have to pay for your therapy later.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
the biggest difference. Guilt.
Yeah.
I can put you on a lead in public until you're like of old age. Whereas if you do that with a 20-year-old, it'll be like, is this a fetish or is something wrong with that individual? Like, why are they on that lead and barking at that person? It's like, two slightly different things. But it has trained us. And also, you're great at cooking and things, and I'm great at walking behind people and picking up rubbish and putting toys
that's
away.
good.
And tidy. I'm tidy, but you're talented. That's it. You make all the lush meals. I just go behind you. Oh, I can clean a plate. Oh, I can put that away. It works.
That's a good combination.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I literally made brownies today and the kitchen is chaotic.
Okay, job for Mike when you're asleep.
That is normally what happens. She goes to bed and then I listen to an audiobook or a podcast while cleaning and stuff. But I've got some more fun things to talk about. I won't quite go into maths quite yet. It's quite an intense one, but we will get there shortly. I also didn't ask you, Alison, how long you had. So I thought I'd better make sure, because I was thinking this was going to be...
I thought you meant having a baby. I was like,
I know.
oh, they've got a limited
That was-
time.
Okay, no, that would have been a very inappropriate and rude question to ask someone, especially in the middle of a podcast. No, as in for the rest of the podcast, because I was thinking
How long are you thinking?
5 hours. No,
This is a 6-part series. We're recording it today.
yeah, all at once now. Yeah, this is going to last me for the next couple of months on Genuine Chit Chat. No, it was probably about an hour and a half is where I go to, so another half hour or so.
I imagined that. I know that you sit down and have a conversation. So I was
Yeah.
prepared
Okay,
for
Tonya says the
conversation.
same.
He's a chatty boy.
Tonya's like, you said an hour, so I've booked off 2, and I've got 15 minutes leeway on either side, and I'll get on there early because I know you want to talk to me about this. It's like,
Kevin always says to me, I like who you recording with, and I'll go blah blah blah, and he goes, yeah. And as soon as I go, Mikey's like, right, so I'll just add an extra hour on until I see you. Yeah, good point.
yeah.
No, we'll wrap it up. We've got a time, we'll wrap it up. And he's like, can you stop lying? It's just a lie.
Megan says that to me whenever I'll be like, oh, it'll be an hour. She's like, okay, I'll see you in 2 hours. It's like, no, I'll be an hour this time. It's like, yes, I will see you in 2 hours. The other day it was like an hour 50, and I was
I
like,
timed it
wasn't-
on my phone. That's just like, you say you're going to take an hour and then you're like 5 years.
Yeah, that's true. But that is, I just love talking to people, especially these lovely individuals who are so interesting and have got so much to say. But I've got some notes from a different friend of mine who is called Jasmine. Now, Jasmine that's not a name that's been spoken about on this podcast, but she is the partner of my friend Reese, who is in the first ever episode of Genuine Chit-Chat and episode 100 and like one or two in between. He's one of my longest friends. So they've had 2 children. One of them is how many months old? 6 months old? 3 months old.
Elliot was born on Halloween.
Yeah, so 3 months old. And then we've got Caleb, who's 2 and a bit.
Caleb,
I should have really noted this down and asked.
Caleb is 2 in like April.
Yeah, so we've got so our friend Jasmine.
Megan doing the heavy lifting there. That is called the emotional load that women have to do and carry all the time, having to remember the ages of those children of your friends.
Yeah,
I'm normally good with years. I'm terrible with the months, but when it comes to years, because I remember people's birth years, so I just work back. To be fair, with family and stuff, I know pretty much all of them. So, but I don't just rely on that for Megan to clarify, trying to push the patriarchy on me.
That's the only reason we're together, so I can remember dates.
And you cook really well, don't forget that.
Yeah,
don't forget, but basically, one of the things, so Jasmine was very open about this and she said I could say her name, so I'm saying it as many times as conceivably possible. But she recommended me a podcast, which is called Birth Ed, is the name of the podcast, and it's got 20 odd episodes on, like 2 seasons. And one of the episodes, one of the early ones from November 2019, was called Men in the Birthing Room. And it's about this gentleman who's been a midwife for 20 years. And he speaks about a thing which is in general, when you are a biological male in the birthing room with your biological female partner, generally men often have this thing go off in their brain where they want to solve problems. And it kind of links with, I believe, something that Alison was saying earlier, or might be what Ria was saying, but basically that thing where men want to solve, even when they're trying hard to be good and not be bad, try and solve these problems for your pregnant partner who's going through a lot, and it's just a thing where you can't solve this problem, you can't do that thing, and you just have to kind of let them be themselves. And one thing that Jasmine was saying as well to me, connecting with this, was that in the podcast, he says that when a woman gives birth, when they go into certain parts, they can get sort of a tunnel vision and they hyper focus on just the birth, and they become this thing. And if you're a birthing partner and your partner's not acting the way they normally would, it's like, he has to tell men a lot of the time, don't be worried if your partner is acting in this way or that way. This is perfectly normal. They're going through hell right now, okay? There's a lot of hormones going on. There's a lot of stuff. Don't be, concerned necessarily if they don't seem like themselves for a little bit because they're going through something intense and some trauma. And one thing that links the kind of Jasmine said is one sort of stigma that comes along with childbirth, linking in with the sort of identity part of that, is that some people, when they give birth, they lose part of their identity, because when you have a child, what can happen is that if you only become mum and you don't have time for yourself and you just hyper focus, obviously your child becomes, she said, as soon as she had her kids, a switch goes off immediately, and she's like, without a shadow of a doubt, I would die for them 100%. If Reese need to die, I push him in front of a bus straight away. If it's to save my kid, that's it. There is no question or anything, straight away. But what can happen is you can become so hyper-focused on your child at points that you can not have time for yourself, and that can kind of shift the dynamic of a relationship when you have kids. So I wondered if, in that sort of vein, we've spoken about pregnancy and some of the things with childbirth itself, but the relation to when you have a child, some of the potential expectations of being a mother, but also how relationships, especially with your partner, can shift. I wondered if either of you would be willing to shed some light on that dynamic, because once again, as someone who hasn't had a child, and especially as someone who's a biological male, it's like when a baby comes into your life, this thing you've created, this change of hormones and things that can happen to you, and linking in with sort of postnatal depression and things, a lot of things can change. And I know that Ria, you have a lot of experience in this element. I wondered if you'd be willing to share part of that with us.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know where to start. I don't know if we've got enough time, Mike.
I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot.
I mean, yeah, I think I was incredibly lucky. So Kevin got 4 months off work as paternity leave. So we had an incredible, possibly the best 4 months of my life, even though in like the first 2 weeks that was the start of my postnatal depression, undiagnosed until a lot later, and I did want to kill myself. So even including that, and I'm saying that glibly, for multiple reasons, which again we don't have time on, but like it's very important if you have postnatal depression to speak to people and get some help. You should not be ashamed. You are loved. You are important. Know that about yourself. Please, please, please seek help. I can only talk about it glibly now because it is 4 years later. But I was so incredibly lucky that I got to have him with me for 4 months. We got to bond. We got to share the load of absolutely everything. I tried to breastfeed and I couldn't breastfeed. And it turns out it was the best thing ever that happened to us because we could share that. I'll never forget the first time I gave her a formula. We had a horrific time, had the most amazing consultant come out for free. She just came to my house every day to try and help me, and she was wonderful and understanding, and she cuddled me when I needed a cuddle. She didn't cuddle me when I didn't need a cuddle. You know, she was like the most amazing woman, but it just wasn't happening. And I'll never forget giving her that first bottle, and she was finally happy, and I was finally happy, and we looked at each other and we went, oh, okay, cool, we've got this. And then Kevin got to do the same and was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, cool, we're a team in this. We're doing it together. Like, I will never, ever, like, it was just the best time. We spent so much time together. We went out on adventures every single day, like all of these sort of things. He was there for me when I needed him the most. I was there for him when he'd been up for 6 hours staring at a wall, because it was the only way she would go to sleep, all of that sort of stuff. Absolutely fantastic. So I think we were in quite a unique position as we were able to start off really strong so that when issues did start to happen, so when I was finally got help for postnatal depression, when it all came to a head, you know, he was there for me. It was, we are there together as a team. And that is what I think you need to feel like when you go into having a baby. Through conception, through trying to conceive, through pregnancy, through birth, through then having a child and then growing up, you need to feel like you're a team. A team doesn't always get on. A team doesn't always achieve the goal that they want, but you need to have respect for each other. You need to have time together. You need to be able to talk and ask questions and give each other space, but then also come together. And you need to realise that we always talk about this, even if we were to break up, which, you know, it's not on the horizon, but if we were ever to, you know, our goal is to help our child become an adult who can face the world that's ahead of them. That is our goal. Even if we end up hating each other's guts, even if one of us ends up like breaking the other's heart or anything like that, as parents to our child, our goal is to create a safe environment for her and to equip her with the tools that she needs to go out into the world. And it doesn't mean raising the perfect child. It means that she knows if she needs help, she knows where to get it. If she knows that if she needs help, it's okay to ask, you know, all of those sort of things. And I think for me, that's the most important thing about going into having a baby. It's just, and I'm not doing it to be like, we're so amazing. It's hard to achieve. We've had times where that's been really difficult and we've had to work on that. You know, she is 4, and in those 4 years, we have had times where we have not been a team, where we have not respected each other, and that's made it infinitely harder. And so for me, that is just the biggest thing. You've got to work at it. It's not easy. Like, and life throws things your way, and you got to have your person, and that person needs to put up with you, good and bad, and with your kid being good and bad. Oh, I love my kid so much, but sometimes she's a dickhead. And I just want to be like, I do not want to parent right now. And you can't. You're a parent. You've got to do it. You've got to put your shit aside and be like, I've got to deal with that later. I'll go and talk to somebody about that later. But right now, you need to get these trousers on that I've been trying to get on you for the last 45 minutes. And we got to get going. I may want to take these trousers, throw them out of a window, but then you're going to think that that's okay. So I can't do that. So I've got to get my shit together. And when you don't get your shit together, you apologise and you don't say shit to them. Obviously, that'd be terrible. But you say, you know, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Here's the reasons why I did it. It's not about you. Any of my reactions are not on you. And I think that's really important as a parent to say to your kid that my reactions are my own. That's really important to me, that I always say to her, if I get upset by anything, I'm like, this is not you. You're not here to absorb this emotion. You're not here to think about this emotion as you. Because I would imagine that many of us never heard that from our parents, never heard a sorry.
Yeah.
If they were angry at you, you were scared, you took that anger on board, and I don't want my child to feel that. And I had wonderful parents, but it was a very different way of parenting to how I want to parent. And you need to be in agreement about those sort of things as well, about how you parent. And that's part of being a team. You know, we keep each other in check all the time. One of us is losing our shit about something. It's like, I'm here for you, I support you. And, you know, it could be about her or not, but it's like, in an hour's time, we're picking her up from nursery. We need to be together on this. If you need some time alone, cool, go for it. I've got dinner. Don't you worry about it. You know, we'll talk about it afterwards. If you don't want to talk about it, I've got you space. But, you know, you still need to give her a kiss goodnight. You still got to give her a hug and tell her you love her. And that is going into parenting, what I think is really, really important. And nobody's perfect at it, by the way. If you're not doing all of these things, parents aren't perfect. We're all human, we're all flawed. Like, we'll mess up all the time. It's fine.
That's how you learn, though.
Acknowledge it. Yeah, exactly. Acknowledge it. Like, tell your kid about it. Like, you know, I got angry because of X, Y, and Z. It happens. It's okay to get angry. How will we do about it in future? You know? Amazing. I don't think that fully answered your question. I went on a bit of a
that's fine. You did generally sort of go into the general things I want to talk about, which is you know, the dynamic shift when you have children. But like with Alyson, so do you mind telling us that when you had, I assume the first child, I would assume changes the dynamic more substantially than it changed from the first child to the second child. So I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that, and maybe a little bit about what it's like with the dynamic shift with the second child, of like having a team where instead of it being you outnumber the little ones, you're on this even path. So I wonder if you could tell us a bit about that.
First of all, everything Ria said was so beautiful. I was tearing up over here, honestly, because I think especially the piece about apologizing to your children and to explain why you did what you did and that it had nothing to do with them. It's so important and it matters. And they remember. See, I'm tearing up now. Let's see. My husband and I had been together almost 10 years when we had our kids. So we had the sort of gift of knowing each other very well, which I feel very grateful for. And we talked a lot about it. We are both children of divorce, and our parents didn't really like each other after, you know, like it wasn't like we part as friends. I mean, my parents did in theory because they lived together as friends for 10 years after they divorced, but that's a story for another day. So we were like we talked about everything, you know, what do you want to, I mean, everything, birth, breastfeeding, childcare. I mean, just, that's how we are. And we were on the same page. And I think we definitely had an understanding that in the end, it was my choice or the person who's going to do it. Like if somebody really cares about the kid never having screens, then who's going to entertain the child when that is happening? Or if you really want them to sleep through the night and you're going to do that sleep training thing, who's going to listen to them scream and cry? Because for me, I was like, I can't do this. So we're just going to get up with this kid as many times as this kid gets up because I do not have the follow through. The kid is going to cry for 2 minutes and I'm going to go in there. So I know myself well enough. And so I feel like we were pretty honest about what we could and couldn't do. And it wasn't about dreams or like ideas of parenting. It was like, this is who I want to be. And this is the relationship I want to have with my child. And that's something we still talk about with our kids. And I was just talking to a friend earlier and she was saying, you know, the part about parenthood that nobody really seems to understand till they're in it is there's no end. There's no point at which you're like, I got this. You know, I gave birth. I'm done. I, nursed them. I'm done. They're in kindergarten. I'm done. They got A's. I'm done. Never done. Never done. And they will have some problem probably when you are very in the middle of something you're interested in. That is a guarantee. Always. So, but our relationship shifts and I was certainly, I think both Cody and I I think our moms had similar complaints about our fathers. So that was something that we had on our brains, which is that they had a hard time becoming secondary in the relationship. They wanted to be the primary focus of their wife's attention, and that was a adjustment that never occurred. They never took second place. They never were partners, because so they weren't partners. So then you have to jockey for position, and my dad did a lot around the house because he was a widower when my mom married him, and so he had been a single father, so he knew how to do these things. But emotionally, like Ria was saying earlier about emotional labor, invisible labor, he wasn't willing to do any of that work, and I think in a lot of ways he felt like another child to her. And I think that is a great way to destroy a marriage. If you can't take care of your own shit and you expect someone who's dealing with a very small child to take care of your emotional load, you're probably not going to get along great. And it's going to cause a lot of resentment. So we knew that going in, like, oh, my first priority, and I had a lot of reminders from my mother, and I'm very grateful to her for that. She would say, you got to take care of yourself. You gotta put your mask on first. That analogy, like your priority, your number one priority is you, because the best mother you can be is the best you. And that is something I definitely took with my friends too, when they were struggling, like what they should do. It's like, what do you want to do? What's best for you? That's what's best for your child. So I think as a parent, you have to be number one to yourself, and then it's your kids, and then it's your partner. And I think that's the way it works. So if there's resentment around that, not great. Also, as a side note, just don't ever be that person who is like, so when can we get back to having sex? Because that is a real relationship destroyer from what I've observed. And I told my husband, like, before we had kids, I don't know when I'm going to want to have sex again. Don't ever ask me. Ever. And it turned out it was fine. Like, I wanted to have, like, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like a very long stretch. It wasn't, it wasn't, but also, and to go into it, like, understanding my body's different now.
Mm-hmm.
It is fundamentally changed. So what I liked before might not be what I like now. And it doesn't reflect on you. This isn't about you. It's about me. And so I think those things are very important, because I think sex is an important part of a relationship. If it's not, great. If you're both on the same page and neither one of you cares about sex, you're going to be golden. But if one of you does and one of you doesn't, it's going to get problematic. Okay. So I think talking about it before you have kids, like, is important, and to not feel shame about whatever your body is doing or feeling and how your body's changing, because it all looks a little different. It's not the same you. And I think that in the end, it brings you closer. I certainly feel grateful for my partner every day, because I know no one cares about my kids the way that we do. They're not going to listen to me talk about every single thing they did that was cute to me. Probably. And that is fun. And there's so much of us in them. Obviously, they're their own people. But I think oftentimes the most triggered you ever get when you're with your children is when they remind you of the part of yourself that you don't want to deal with.
That is so accurate. Yes. I'm like, I don't like it when you do that, because that is me.
And we joke about it. Like, we're able to joke about it. And we love each other. So we're able to be like, hey, look at, remind you of anyone? So I since I am a child of divorce and it was not a happy family situation, this is a gift that I never really thought I would have. So I am grateful for it every day. And it does take work, but it shouldn't take so much work. Mm-hmm. So if you are already in a relationship with somebody who is so much work, the kid isn't going to fix it.
Kids do
not going to make it better.
Anything.
No,
they definitely show the flaws, and then you have to.
And you want a partner who's going to be like, oh, it's cute they remind me of you, not, oh, wow, she's a bitch like you. Yeah. You don't want that partner. And those partners are out there.
They exist.
So, if you're already kind of low-key hating each other, like, think about it. Really think about it. I don't think you and Megan.
No, I was going to say, because it looks like you're looking straight at us, where it's like, we're both.
I'm not looking at
I'm
you.
joking.
She's looking at you, Megan. Megan, she's like, if you low-key hate him, give me a signal.
Right.
Start our own podcast. You come on Femme On. You come on Femme On Collective. We'll find Femme On Cooking for you. We're getting you in there.
Ooh, I
you don't have to. You don't have to worry.
Someone who's listening who thinks they can't do better. You can do better.
You can.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. We've got people in various positions close to myself and Megan who are going through various relationship stages, not to do with pregnancy and things, but they're like, it's like, do they respect you? No. Well, then why? That's that, and it's trust and respect. Is it like, do they trust and respect you? If the answer is no to either of those things,
I guess I'll go then. Jokes.
Yeah, but
I don't care about the chemistry or how handsome or how great it is. Like none of it matters, and it will all go.
Yeah.
Like if your relationship lasts, all of that will go. So yeah, trust and respect, and like some common interests, I think help. Or that you think each other's funny, or
at least try with each other. Like the willingness. Like me and Megan, when we first met, there was a few things that we liked, but it's been a lot of, you like this thing a lot and I like this thing a lot. Rather than us doing separate things or resenting each other, we'll basically be like, okay, we'll do a bit of this and a bit of that. So a bit of each other's thing. And we just kind of piece that together. And we've, in amidst that, we found a lot of things we both really enjoy. But sometimes it's like, Megan wants to watch more of this thing. I want to watch more of this thing. We know what this thing is, don't we? But I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. It's basically RuPaul's Drag Race and Bake Off for Megan, and for me, it's Star Wars and Marvel stuff.
Oh,
it's like,
Bake Off.
Yeah. So for that's always the trade is both of those things. But we even talk about like with these imaginary children, we say like there's certain traits we have, and I'm like, I imagine that. You know,
sometimes Mike will look at me and I'll do something. He's like, God, I hope our children don't do that.
No, as a joke. To clarify, it's all in jest. To clarify.
It's like when I'm in a stroppy mood, he's like, oh, God, our children are going to do that, aren't they?
They're definitely going to do that.
Yeah,
they're absolutely
it's only when I've got her,
that.
when I've got her laughing with me. I don't do it when she's mad at me, but once I've got her laughing
then
about...
dragon comes out.
When she's like laughing and giggling about like being in a bit of a silly mood and I've got her on my side, and then it's like, we're going to have kids and they're going to be like that. Well, you know, if one of you is maybe off kilter a smidge, which happens to everyone, and it's like when sometimes you realise you're off kilter and you've maybe just, you're in a bad mood and there was no real necessary reason for it, and you've just kind of spoken to your partner a bit rudely or something, and you kind of catch yourself in this thing and you're like, I shouldn't be in this bad mood, I'm being silly, and then your partner notices and it's like, you know, you're in a little bit of a silly mood.
It either goes one or two ways though. I either will get out of the mood or I will recognise that I'm being unreasonable, but I will be stubborn and just continue to be unreasonable. And that's where Mike's like, oh God, our children are going to do that.
It's that I can see it. I can see every little girl.
And then you will be like kind of forced to stop doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know I've got traits like that as well.
Your kids will be like, I can't believe you're so mad at me. Why do you hate me? You know, and you're like, all I did was like kind of be annoyed. You know? And it's shocking because I certainly grew up in a very like sarcastic family. Yeah. And we said lots of like terrible shit to each other. And if I said any of those things to my kid, it would be just destroy them. You know, and I really had to learn. Well, I had to stop saying so many curse words.
Yeah, and really hard.
Yeah. And now they're older, and now I can do it again, and it's fucking great. And the tone, tone.
And I say, people get annoyed with me, but you know, somebody will say something to her, and I have to go, she's 4.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand. Oh, but I'm just joking. But she doesn't. She's 4.
Right.
She doesn't understand that, and that's because I don't want her to feel how I often felt as a kid.
Right.
You know, right. You know, and so and that elicits two reactions. People are either like, oh, I'm really offended, because people naturally get defensive, right? If you call them out on something, people, we all do it, get defensive. Or they go, yeah, actually, you're right, she's 4. And you're like, great, either way, hopefully you're going to go and have a little think about your thing, but I'm not going to let my kid be spoken to like that by other people. So I also have to monitor myself that I don't do that either.
Yeah.
You know, and it's things like if you think, and we'll do this all the time, we'll think we're being funny by winding her up because we wind each other up. Well, we're not. It's not funny for her. She's getting upset. So you've got to nip that behaviour in the bud. You can't do that. She's 4. She doesn't get it. She's like, my parents have just been mean to me.
Yeah. And I was not a very touchy person. Like, I didn't like it when people hugged. I still really don't like people who hug. Just
No.
Well, no,
at all times.
Whenever I meet you in real life, then
Mike's a
I'll make
hugger.
sure. Because
Mike and I are huggers.
I'll hug you, Mike and Ria, because I know you. And I like you.
I wouldn't ask.
not just
I
like
would
a-
never assume. I would never assume. You know,
You always
there's
ask permission
consenting
first.
hugs. Yes.
But it's like half. I got so much better at hugging and like showing physical affection because it matters to them. And it's the most amazing thing when you're a parent. You have to carry them around, so it teaches you to like hold someone close and show your love for them. And not good sleepers, and so you do a lot of that. But
The best feeling is when they put their little arms around your neck and put their little face into your neck, their little head into your neck. It's honestly the best.
I now do that with my
Best
son.
feeling.
So
Oh,
that
it's
tall.
just
I put my arms around his neck and hug him. But it doesn't change. They're in you. They live in you. And they'll live in you too, Mike, even though you don't have their DNA in you. Like Megan, like they're, I don't know. It's profound. That's why I got so emotional because for me, like I fully encourage and love people who don't want to have kids and know it because I really don't like people who are like, oh, I'm going to have a kid, but I'm not going to let it change me. You know, like I'm just going to keep
people say
doing
that?
what I'm doing.
all
Oh,
the time.
hell yes.
Really? Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
damn.
gonna let them change me. Like we're just gonna hang out or whatever nonsense. But like if you have children, for me it has been a life changing experience because I love them. I really do, and it has helped me have so much more compassion and sympathy for my parents and for little me, and how life is not easy, and most of us are doing the best we can. And it's a journey.
It is. It's beautiful, and I love everything you've both said thus far. But we've got one more sort of part of a thing that Maff
Bringing
has
the
kind
tone
of
down.
It is. It's just because we're getting.
Do you want me to talk about lightning crotch? Is that what you want?
No,
right.
no,
Is
not
that
quite.
Is that part 3 of 17?
The last part. So the thing that Maff has very kindly shared to us is going to be something that's a bit more of issues alongside pregnancy, but he was kind enough, and his partner Amanda has been kind enough to share this, so I'm gonna read that element out. But I do have some lighter parts that we're going to finish with, which is going to be lightning crotch, and then weird symptoms during pregnancy that Jasmine shared with us, and maybe a couple of funny little weird things, like some weird stuff Jasmine ate and some other little things there. So I am going to end on a higher note, but I thought if we run out of time, I don't want to end on sort of Maff's thing, because it's quite, I imagine, want to talk about it and things. And so Maff, obviously one of the newest members of the Comics Emotion family, who is just delightful. He really saved the Andor chat. He's jumped in, full force into the podcasting realm. And we're doing a podcast together as well, Rebels Reviewed, which will be coming out in a month or so, probably.
And Maff and I, we keep on talking about it. Next week, we're doing the Last of Us podcast.
Amazing.
And we're trying to be going to keep it to an hour. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be 5 hours long. Can't be. I've got to get it out.
You're still going to be recording when the next episode comes out.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, Maff, we've got to go. We've been talking for 4 days now.
Poor Paul's on it with us, and he'll just be like, can you two stop talking?
He'll be like, I've got to go, guys. I'll come back in a couple of hours' time. I'll have a nap. But yeah, Maff, absolute
Mike.
delight. And I cannot wait to chat with him, along with, obviously, Dave for Rebels Reviewed. But, so, Maff, this is quoting him. So, it's quite a lot, but... myself and Amanda have been together for 16 years this year. Amanda had 2 children, Alex, 3, and Haley, 2, from a previous relationship when I met her. But we were lucky enough to find each other, and the kids were happy enough to let me join the family. Alex, now 18, and Haley, now 17, have always called me their dad, and as far as I'm concerned, I am. We don't need to be blood related to be family. It's been a pleasure to be in their life and to watch them grow up. We've had so many times We talked so many times about having another baby so I could experience being a biological father and creating a little life force a few times. So we decided that after 5 years we were ready to try and had everything planned. Amanda had the Let's Loop treatment for cancerous cells on the cervix and got told at the time it wouldn't cause any problems to future pregnancies. Fast forward several years when we decide to try for our final baby. We get pregnant, it's excitedly await for our first midwife appointment and get told we're classed as high risk due to the short cervix. We had to be referred to a specialist for the duration of our pregnancy after a couple of appointments and transvaginal scans. Baby was doing perfect, but the specialists told us she didn't think we would get a viable term and to rest as the baby could literally fall out as I was walking down the street. We had almost weekly appointments and transvaginal scans, all showing baby perfectly growing, and our options would be decided by the specialist cervical stitch or progesterone injections. Then I developed DVT in my leg. I believe this was quoting Amanda, a DVT in my leg when we discovered when we were camping around a 30-minute drive from my house. The midwife advised us to go to the nearest hospital. We did this and finally got diagnosed DVT. Do we know what DVT is? Sorry.
Deep vein thrombosis.
Okay, thank you. But then encountered the problem that the hospital we went to doesn't communicate with the hospital we were normally at because we were camping. So we had loads of problems getting notes for the pregnancy specialists and problems transferring to our local hospital, which was only a few minutes walk from our house, to the haematologists. Both hospitals are 11 miles away from each other, so about 20 minutes, but we're unable to talk to each other for our notes, which was then causing a huge amount of stress. And from then on, things became much more stressful. I was told, so this is everything I've just said in this one is quoting Amanda. I was told to rest for the short cervix, but to keep active for the blood clot. Weekly transvaginal scans, weekly blood tests, daily heparin injections self-administered, and then weekly progesterone injections administered at the hospital. No water birth was allowed to give in hospital because I was a high risk, and then on top of that I had to travel to a further hospital 30 minutes away to give birth because we needed to be where the specialists were in case I bled out or giving birth and needed a transfusion. The baby kept growing perfectly and then gets to 35 weeks and they start talking about wanting to induce me early. A total shock. We spend all this time keeping the baby in to now trying to evict him early. Baby came on his own, however, at 37 weeks. I had been having contractions for 2 days and lost my mucus plug on the third morning. Contractions continued timing. They were fluctuating between 3, 4 and 5 minutes apart. So we called the midwife and were told that we think the baby is on the way. And we were told that no, it's just the Braxton Hicks. Take paracetamol and have a bath. We had a bath, we tried to lay down, and then the water broke. We rang the midwife, who finally told me to come in, but don't wait for Matt to get home. Take me in a taxi. I said, no way, I already needed to push, but she was adamant, no, you have plenty of time to just get a taxi instead. Maff then rushed back from work and then rushed to us there, and the whole time I'm trying to squeeze the baby back inside, but then doubting myself and thinking, is this just the Braxton Hicks? I may need paracetamol. We arrived at the hospital. Maff ran in to get a wheelchair, to which the porter wouldn't let him have one. Then a security guard took one from the porter and brought it up to me and pushed me up to the delivery suite while Maff parked the car. We got into the bed and yes, baby was already there waiting to be pushed out. We instantly asked for breastfeeding support and just got told to put the baby to breast. We did, and George did feed small amounts. We continued this while in the hospital for 3 days and then didn't really receive any good support until the second day, when we got a good midwife that actually helped with feeding positions and then told me to express and try and cup/bottle feeding, as George was using me for comfort and sleeping on me after a few days of trying to feed. While home feeding was still a struggle, we were asking for support but didn't really receive any until the point George dropped below 11% his birth weight and was slightly jaundiced, to which point we were told on the Friday evening that if he hadn't gained weight by the Monday, he would be taken off us and had to be kept in hospital. So obviously with a weekend of worry and Maff going to buy baby formula, which was the wrong one as well due to sheer panic, I was expressing and feeding him on the breast as well, and then by Monday we went to the hospital through tears and then got told that George wouldn't be taken away. He'd actually put weight on, so we got the breastfeeding support worker and she helped massively with further getting help with nipple shields, and then George gained the weight rapidly. I just feel like there is no communication between the medical professionals, and some of them they don't think how to word things, and they leave you more worry by what they've just said. the baby could just fall out when you're walking down the street is not what you want to hear. And they're not really explaining things right. Like, the reason they want me to be induced was so that they could stop my Harperin injections the day before, so there'd be less chance of me having any problems with bleeding out or during birth if I needed a C-section. After George was here, I suffered postnatal depression and separation anxiety from George to the point it affected Maff spending time alone with him, say even for a stroll around the park, or even him carrying while we were out. And I honestly think it was down to the fact that we were told early that we may lose him, that it took almost 3 years to get any form of counselling, by which point it really helped myself and I was doing much better. So that's from Amanda, and then there's a small part here from Maff, which was... We've just had George's 4th birthday on the 13th of January, and he's an amazing little boy. We love them all, and people say there's always a difference between your own and your stepchildren. And although that is partly true, I do have a different bond with George. Maybe that's part of what we went through. But Alex is my eldest, and although some of his life choices at the moment aren't always the best, I know he's there for us, and we're proud of him, brackets most of the time. And Hayley will always be my little girl. We do clash at times, but that's because she's a lot like me, as we have the same mannerisms. George is like my little twin. If you look at me when I was his age on photos, and George, you'd be easily confused. I do feel truly blessed with the family I have, and wouldn't change them for the world. Amanda is an amazing person for everything she does. She's my wife and does more than anything. And more than anything, she's my best friend. So, funnily enough, just by coincidence, that whole sort of expression that Maff and Amanda very kindly shared with us has, this conversation has actually touched upon a lot of those elements with breastfeeding, about the partners and relationship, about some of the complications that can happen, but also people being kind and telling their stories, and also some of the issues with some of the healthcare systems. But yeah, just thank you, Maff and Amanda, for sharing those things. Ria, is there anything you'd like to sort of comment on that?
No, just thank you for sharing. I think the mental load whilst being pregnant, which is a physical and mental load in itself, of that worry through the entire time. I'm so sorry that she had to go through that. That's so awful. I think it's, women, this is where women... and men and everybody who gives birth or is in the vicinity of that needs support. And I'm trying to not go into a rant about social care, which is why I'm quite hesitant. But just thank you so much for sharing, and I'm so pleased you've managed to get counselling. I'm sorry it's taken so long. That's awful, and just again, another important story to share. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. And the importance of other people, when people are having issues with their children or anything, obviously be wary and be sensitive of what you can say, especially with healthcare professionals and things like that. Is just you don't know what one simple sentence to you could cause a serious trauma or even a trigger to other people if they've gone through some obviously very traumatic things. I will be putting trigger warnings at the start here.
And I think she touches on something really important, which is about reflecting back after giving birth. I look back on my birth story, and I had what is genuinely sort of thought as like an uncomplicated pregnancy and uncomplicated birth. I would disagree. I don't feel that. I had a complicated pregnancy in terms I was sick for most of it, apart from 2 weeks. It wasn't until my final trimester that they finally gave me anti-sickness tablets. So it was absolutely horrific. In my first trimester, I lost so much weight that people were congratulating me on losing so much weight, which is a whole other different podcast. And I was like, I don't want to be losing weight. I'm pregnant. It's supposed to be the opposite. And I'm scared and vomiting like every 2 hours. So not great. I had multiple bleeds, which ended up like many trips to A&E and to maternity care, which wasn't communicated to me properly until the very final one, that it was because I've got a soft cervix. So that was causing the bleeds. And then in my birthing story, my waters broke dramatically, like they do in the movies, which everybody told me wouldn't happen. All over our sofa, all over the floor. Kevin was asleep, I had to go and wake him up. And he came out of the room to just underwear and pajama bottoms on the floor, surrounded in water, going, "What's happening?" And I was like, well, we're about to have a baby. And when I ended up being induced, I don't want to talk about that right now. They put a hand up, yeah, it's fantastic for a pessary. I don't want to talk about it because we're running out of time because it's a long story. But then I moved along very quickly and I wasn't listened to. Nobody believed me. And then suddenly they were like, you're 6 centimetres, you're about to have a baby. We need to rush you into the room. You can't have an epidural, you can't have anything. If you want a water birth, you've got to get in it now. And looking back on it, I was not listened to, but I did have excellent care. And, and I think that reflects her story as well, Amanda's story, that everybody was doing everything to try and make sure she was okay, to look after her, but it wasn't necessarily the sort of that connection, that human connection in terms of the care that she needed, the looking after her mental health type of care. And I feel many women and many people who give birth feel the same upon reflection after giving birth.
And Alyson, any comments before we then? I'll turn to the lighter things towards the end, but Alyson, everything that we've just spoken about.
Same as Ria. Like, I appreciate her sharing that story. I think it really speaks to what I was talking about earlier about being treated like your medical case instead of a person who's giving birth. And those things that they say, like, we may take away your child. I had something like that said to me, and particularly if you're worried about losing your child earlier or you had miscarriages, I think it's incredibly triggering, and they don't really know or think about it. It's just it's very much about keeping everyone alive. That's the guiding principle. And it's not about experience. It's not about how it's being done. It's about results. And it's an interesting, I was talking with my friend earlier about it, and I don't know if you have doulas in the UK or that's something, how I strongly recommend that if you're having a hospital birth and not a midwife birth, and even if you are having a midwife birth, but it's to have someone who's your advocate, who is helping speak for you and also slow down this process that feels like it's moving at just a sonic speed. Like everything is happening, everyone is talking around you, and you need someone who has your back. And I think for me, one of the biggest challenges of becoming a parent and nursing and all of those things was not beating myself up if I wasn't doing it as well as I thought I should be doing it. Because I had a lot of challenges breastfeeding my first child. And I remember just feeling like such a piece of shit that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't a woman because I couldn't do it right. And if I try one more time, as my fever is going up and my breasts are turning rock hard, it's not good signs. And luckily I had a partner who was like, we got to call lactation. We got to do something. You're not okay. And I was in so much denial because not being able to do that, I just felt worthless. And I think people don't realize how oftentimes we turn to that. That's our default setting, worthlessness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's so important to talk about it, because I think many of us sit alone with that and it just festers and gets worse. So I think it's wonderful Amanda shared this. I think her story, unfortunately, is very common. And I'm glad she got the help she needed to, but it's a travesty that it took so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, thank you so much again to both Maff and Amanda for sharing, and obviously for my other friend for sharing. And so we'll start to wrap up here because we've been chatting for a long time. But once again, back to Jasmine, who's got some interesting things. She mentioned with breastfeeding and things with her first child, Caleb, had issues, end up just doing bottle, but then second child, immediate.
Just whacked out when he needs
straight
it.
away. And she's like, it's the first one had certain better things because it was your formula. Her partner Reese, he could feed in the middle of the night. That sort of thing was convenient. But now he's finding that because of breastfeeding, he's not having that midnight feed because obviously preparing breast milk in bottles, it's not as easy as one would naturally expect and things. So
it's a pain.
Yeah, there's certain elements and there's benefits, and it's all this element of shame of people feeling like if a woman can't breastfeed, there's a problem. It's like, it's obviously if it's something you want to look into, if it is a medical issue, explore that, but you're not any less of a person or of a woman for being unable physically to do a certain thing. It's just one of those things where shame is such an integral part of some of the problems surrounding pregnancy and childbirth and raising children and a lot of life. But moving on to something slightly lighter is Jasmine kindly told me some of the things where some of the weird symptoms and strange things that happened to her. So one thing she found that she was dribbling a lot, especially when she was just falling to sleep. So she's laying in bed and she was just mouth was making so much saliva. She'd be like,
your sinuses swell up.
Yeah, so
when
she
you're
was
pregnant,
like,
your sinuses swell up, so you can't breathe through your nose.
Yeah, so she said, so she's, to quote her, she's like, I'm a mouth breather anyway. She was like, I'm a dirty mouth breather anyway. So when I was pregnant, it was just like waking up like after an hour of falling asleep and just dribble. But she said she was in a lot of discomfort due to her pelvis and things, and so walking was in a lot of pain. And people were like, oh yeah, you're in discomfort because of being pregnant. She's like, no, I'm in agony because of
Do you know why, Mike?
Pelvic dysplasia. Because pregnancy,
do you want to know why?
It moves your organs and your hips out and things, doesn't it?
It moves everything. So all of everything that joins your body together and your bones together softens up. Everything in your body softens up. So all your ligaments, all your joints, all nice and soft, getting ready for the baby. So that's why. So not only do all of your organs literally move, your uterus starts off the size of like an orange, goes to roughly the size of a watermelon.
God.
So all your other organs have to go somewhere. But at the same time, the rest of you's loosening up. So you think you have a baby, because you see it in films, TV, right? You go out and your tummy goes back to normal. I have noticed people have started stopping doing that recently. It doesn't. But also your joints all have to go back together. So they have to all sort of contract back in. They often don't contract back into where they used to be. So I, for example, had problems with my hip and couldn't walk because joints just didn't go back together. My bones just all didn't go back together normally. So you're just walking around, just all loosey. Everything's all loose in there. Teeth are loose. They used to take out your teeth. So back at like about 100 years ago, probably not even that long ago, because women's teeth would get so bad, so you're more prone to cavities and things like that, and infection, gingivitis, but also your teeth get loose. Even your gums loosen up and bleed more. They used to yank out women's teeth and just give them dentures. If you're pregnant, just take out your teeth and give you dentures, because it's more cost effective than actually treating the issue or treating you like a human being, because all they cared about was the baby. Just yank out your teeth because your gums get loose and your teeth hurt.
Wow. Well, I was just talking about that's pretty horrendous. Now I was talking about dribbling and a bit of pain. But
Sorry.
Let's wrap it. Let's do aversion to smells. Here's a fun one. There's obviously aversion to smells is quite a common thing. Not to downplay anything you've said, Ria. Obviously, I felt like I was cut into that. No, Ria. No talking about facts.
Stop being serious, Ria.
No facts about pregnancy. That is what we're here for in jest. But Jasmine, she said she really got into stronger flavour, so she really got into Marmite a lot more. She already liked it, but really, really, really sour sweets. But then olives, hated olives before pregnancy, loved olives during pregnancy, hates olives again, just for that period of time. And she said, with different pregnancies, she had different desires. One of them she was only having for a few weeks. All she could stomach eating was salad cream sandwiches.
Ugh.
So, and I'm like,
Jasmine also went through a trifle stage, and all she ate was she could only eat trifle.
Trifle's amazing, to be fair. I would pretend I was going through a trifle stage.
And egg mayo sandwiches as well.
Trifle, guys. Can you use more trifle? Pass it along.
And another part with it is that Jasmine said her first pregnancy was a lot more difficult, I think, on her body, and also, but the birthing process was a lot more complicated, and Caleb was early, and then he had jaundice, had to be kept in the hospital for a little while, whereas Elliot, their second child, most recent, she was like, it was much easier. The pregnancy was better. It was less bad in all the sort of usual ways. Certain things weren't bothering me as much. But she said one thing that's completely understated is people are like, oh, when you're pregnant, you're tired. She's like, no. When you're pregnant, you are absolutely fucking exhausted. Your body is literally fueling cells multiplying inside you to create life. Your body is doing that. And she's like, you can't fathom the level of exhaustion that you feel. Because I had a conversation with her today for about an hour. So if that's the tone she was saying, it was just like, obviously, I will never understand that as a biological male of the actual toll on one's body of creating life, let alone all the hormonal changes and the joints and your organs being pushed around and everything, and the birth itself, but also just the exhaustion of giving birth is just quite a big thing.
It's the equivalent of running a marathon, and then they don't sleep.
And then they don't sleep because you're exhausted when you're pregnant, but it's just the beginning. That's the thing. That is the hardest. Like, you think you're really tired when you're at term, and then you have a baby, and then you got to care for it. And that was the biggest surprise or thing when we gave birth at home. Like, everyone just leaves and there's your baby. You have no like adjustment period. They're like, are you sure we're ready for this? Like, nobody's going to like check or anything. You're just all going to leave.
It's mad.
She said
I've never had one of these.
She said the
before.
support network was really
Unless
odd.
you're in the
It's like everyone was
Netherlands.
there, and then suddenly it's kind of
Yeah.
you're left to yourself.
Yeah, good luck
So
to
in
you.
the Netherlands, they have amazing postpartum care. So they have somebody who comes around with you every day, and they'll do things like clean your house for you.
Yeah,
or,
postpartum doulas.
like,
That's what they're
Get you
called
some
here.
food. Yeah.
Because in
Yeah,
America,
it's
they've
amazing.
got a lot of
And you
people.
just get them for free in the Netherlands.
Yes. The
That's cool.
Netherlands. What were
In-
you asking, Megan?
In America, I know quite a
Sorry,
few.
yeah.
That's fine. In America, I know quite a few people set up like food stuff.
Yes,
like
meal trains.
yeah, like a meal chain, so that when you have a baby, that there's a stream of meals that you know that are coming your way, so that it can just make things a bit easier.
That
I think
does
that's not really
help.
as a common thing over here.
Oh yeah, we definitely have that. It's the sleeping though. I think that's the hugest adjustment.
Yeah.
It's like, because you will have a friend if you all have a baby whose child sleeps like a lot. You'll have a
I
friend.
was that annoying person to start with, and now my child does not sleep ever. She hit 6 months and went, "You were so smug, weren't you?"
I've slept enough. I've slept enough for the
Yeah.
last 6
Yeah.
months. I'm ready to
And
go
3.5
now.
years later,
So you
I'm
were
like,
that
oh my
person
God, where is
It was like,
my
oh,
sleep?
she just goes to bed and then she just wakes up like 8 hours later. What the fuck
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Yeah, not anymore.
Oh, well,
She's supposed to get like 12 hours sleep. I mean, that would be some sort of miracle. Like, honestly.
you get sleep obsessed, and that is a huge difference
Yeah.
between the first child and I think subsequent children, is that you're so obsessed with it the first time, and the second time you're like, well, this sucks. I mean, we know it does, and you like, because I am not great with sleep deprivation. I think some people are better at it. I do get just like my eyes felt like they were in sand, like that's how it felt, and I just wanted to talk to everybody. Like, how do you do it? Do they sleep? Like, for how long? You know? And then people would do that to me with my second one. I was like, oh, come on. Still talking about sleep? Come on. We've moved on. We're talking about preschool.
Did you, out of interest, Alison, I know we are starting to wrap up, but with your second pregnancy, did you find there were many differences in the journey of pregnancy in it?
It was different, but I had boys both times, but so did your friend, right? Because I do think that matters. Gender can the gender of the child can really affect the way you experience pregnancy. But I eat a lot of salad. Like, it's a joke how much salad I eat as a human. And when I was pregnant, I hated it.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted like steak, and I didn't eat steak at that point in my life. I was a vegetarian for many, many years, and I had started eating fish, but I was like, you know what I want is a bloody steak. I was like, from Rosemary's Baby, which maybe you haven't seen, but she eats bloody steaks, and she also gives birth to the spawn of Satan. But
We've got it on DVD.
From a cult
a little different. But yeah, I really wanted steak. And I want to say, well, upside, I don't know if you agree with me on this, Ria, but the orgasms are better. They're off the charts.
But during or after?
I didn't have pregnancy sex.
During. Oh, I'm
'Cause,
sorry.
like,
It's pretty
I
tremendous.
couldn't. I was so sick. Well, so Kevin was sick at the start of my pregnancy. He was in hospital for 10 days. He got pancreatitis and was incredibly unwell. So for like the first 3 to 6 months, he was like not having any of it. And then by the time we got to that stage, I was exhausted, bleeding, so my bleeding cervix, vomiting all the time. So like none of it was going to happen.
So you weren't having great sex, is what you're saying? I'm hearing it. It's
Everybody
not
said
great
the
sex.
same thing, like, pregnancy sex is amazing. Do you love it? And
Yeah.
I was like, I will literally smash you against a wall. Like, no, I'm not having anything. This
Because you know how your
process is
joints are all
horrendous.
loose and everything's engorged with all kinds of
Yeah, you
stuff
got all
that's
the blood
going on.
flow going
yeah.
on. And
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
you're not
yeah,
feeling
yeah.
sick, you actually feel pretty good.
You do.
Yeah, it's none of it.
Yeah.
Rubbish.
So
Absolute
I
rubbish.
highly
So
recommend
unfair.
if you aren't feeling like you need to vomit. It's it's great. I mean, I also think it's great when you're not pregnant, just for the record. But,
Yeah, I mean, it's always good. Wow, that's
it is there's something. Well,
we've all had bad sex.
certainly. But yeah, that's a fun one. That was unexpected. I also hated that I couldn't sleep on my back. I don't know if you asked that, but that was a real big downer. I was like, oh, I need to sleep on my side? What? I couldn't. And your breasts get so large. I mean, I already have large breasts. And I said this on another podcast and someone said it was a humble brag. It's not. It's a
just
thing.
A fact.
It's not like
just
super
happens.
fun times all the time. And they get so big and you're like, how do I sleep? Like they're just everywhere.
Where do I put them? Why are they just there?
Yeah,
you start knocking things off, not with your belly, with your boobs.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, great for catching stuff. Big boobs are good for that anyway. We all know that, right? Catch stuff in. And
I wouldn't know, Ria.
Oh, you'll find out. You'll find out.
Oh,
Don't worry.
A little bit of popcorn from that.
I've been to cinema weeks. So.
Yeah. but then when you're pregnant, it's worse.
And I had to wear one of those belts the second pregnancy.
You?
Yeah, because it was just the weight of the baby and just everything was loose in there. And I was like, God, this hurts. And then a friend of mine was like, oh, you got to wear one of those like big elastic belts. I was like,
they're like what they wear when people like do
lifesaver.
heavy lifting, don't they?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It was a lifesaver because I am a very active person. So if I can't be active, I get like really not great. And so I was like, I can't lay around. Like I can sometimes, but I also need to do other things. So the belt was a lifesaver. I had friends who had to do the whole like over the shoulder belt, which is a kind of a nightmare. But this was just this is the real low key belt, but game changer. So if you are having pain down there, get yourself a belt.
Do it.
Highly recommend. And maternity clothes are wonderful.
Oh my! I still wear mine.
Love them.
Oh my God, my maternity joggers are the best thing I own.
Yeah.
Like they're just they're so comfortable. I wear them all the time.
Yeah.
Like still, like the day they fall apart, I will just be buying a replacement pair. People are like, are you pregnant? Nope.
Yeah, so it's fun to get hand-me-downs because they are pricey maternity clothes. So it's nice to have a friend who was pregnant before you, or you're hitting her in between her pregnancies, and she wants to help you out with her clothes. I loved maternity clothes. I'm trying to think of other things that were. I didn't love. This is not the right word. I thought it was very interesting who would catcall me when I was pregnant, but who would not when there's a different type of dude who suddenly is like, "Hey, mama." Whoa, okay. I get what you're into. And there's a lot of it. I mean, I got a lot of I hate people who want to touch you. I hate them and wanted to smack them. And I think I give off those vibes. So not a lot of people wanted to touch me because I think they could see in my eyes, I'll fucking hit you. So they just would start to reach toward my stomach. And I would like give them the look of like, you really want to do that? And then they wouldn't. But there was something just, I don't know. Your experience, my experience of the world definitely did change when I was pregnant, especially when you are massively pregnant. People do treat you differently. And you feel like this kind of like, I felt a lot of power. Like, I have a kid in here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm making something. What are you doing?
Yeah, totally. By the end, I was like that. I was like, look at me, I'm bloody badass. Yeah. He's rocking around. It's a whole baby. It's moving.
Yeah.
It's moving. It's hiccuping.
It's a person in there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real life person in there.
Right?
Yeah. I was hoping it was going to come out with teeth because that happens every once in a real,
it does,
like, real rare. No, because teeth is real.
I wouldn't have been happy with that.
Scary.
I would.
Yeah, but then they don't have to teeth. And as a person who found that I know it's not great for nursing.
Only once instead of having to do it twice, I guess.
No, the second time it doesn't matter. It's really the first time that keeps them up at night. And I was so and I was obsessed with getting my child to sleep. Like, I was one of those people who was like, you want to see me at this time? No. You want to, because I was like, I got to get this kid to sleep. It was my whole life.
And you need to respect I think you need to respect people who have a kid and say, I cannot do this at that time because that is nap time. Because that person has been through something to realise that is nap time, and you need to respect that boundary.
That is so true.
Right? They know if my kid is not asleep at this time, I've got hell on earth the next 12 hours. So back off. It's not. I can't just pop out for lunch with you, Deirdre.
Deirdre?
I don't know.
Who do you know called Deirdre?
It's usually older people, though, isn't it? Like, who are a bit disrespectful of the fact that you've got, like, a schedule going on. We didn't have that in my day. I'm like, give a fuck, it's my fucking schedule. Like, and you're like...
and are those the same people who say, treasure it?
Oh,
it goes so fast.
I literally hate those people.
And you'll never, ever feel like this again. Hi, we're in the store. Who the fuck are you? You know? Like my kid, and they always do it when your kid is like throwing a tantrum.
Yeah,
you know? And it's just like, okay, this is never going to be short enough. I understand that like their years are short, but this is long. So, those people... Don't ever be one of those people.
Yeah. They can fuck off.
Yeah. Or one of those people who, when a kid is having a tantrum, says something like, well, why don't you just do X, Y, Z? It's like, get out of here. Like, I'm doing the best I can right now. And you're not helping. So it's
like anybody who passes any passing judgment, oh, your kid should be wearing a coat. All right, you try and get a coat on him then. Here's the coat. I'm going to pop off. I'm going to go and have a glass of wine. See you later. I'll see you in about 45 minutes. You'll still be here, won't you, you little fuck? I have no time for it.
And it never changes. I saw a tweet that was like, I'm not going to do it right, but it was like middle schoolers fear that their friends will see them in a jacket. You know, like, you're just like, I am not wearing a jacket. Like, I mean, I had a kid who just didn't wear pants. Like, I mean, he wore shorts, which I live in California, which is fine. But sometimes it gets cold and people are like, oh, shorts? I'm like, yeah, he doesn't wear pants.
There are some kids at my school that are like 12, 13, and I've never seen them wear a pair of trousers.
Oh,
and it was like -5 here recently.
Like, that's MJ. Like, absolute nightmare. And she goes, oh, I'm not cold. And she's turning blue. But I think you need to message because no, I'm fine. I love the cold. I love the cold, mummy. And you're like, oh, fine.
Well,
you'll still be alive at the end of it. You'll be all right.
Exactly.
I've got one more thing.
Oh, fire crotch? Like, really?
Lightning
crotch.
That's how we get. That's the finale. That's the finale. The last thing from Jasmine is just weird. She had insanely intense, scary, mad dreams. She was like, she's never been a big dreamer, but as soon as she was pregnant for a little while, it was just all systems go. She was like, she describes Reese's dreams as the dreams of a 14-year-old boy. So like being chased by like terrorists or something. And it's really intense and scary. They're the kind of dreams Reese has. Jasmine's like, my dreams are normally just plain and boring, but fairly nonsensical about things vaguely going on around me. But she was like, when pregnant, they were just mad. They were off the wall bonkers, and they were so intense and really fast. And it was like, that's something I'd never even considered would change through pregnancy. Did either of you two find that?
Yeah. You got a lot of hormones going on. So you're going mad. Like it's crazy times in there.
Your brain changes, for sure. Mm-hmm. That's not something we've talked about, pregnancy brain or post-pregnancy brain, but it is very real.
Sight changing, smell, all kinds of stuff.
Pregnancy brain, my friend Chloe and I used to car share to work together, and her baby brain got really, really bad. That she'd be like, Megan, can you remind me that I've got a physiotherapy session tonight? And I would have to text her later on in the day being like, you've got a physio session later. And she's like, thank you, I forgot. Like, she left her bank card in the ATM machine. She took her cash and then left her card behind, and someone chased after her. She just would forget loads of random stuff.
Yeah,
yes.
I can see that.
And words and yourself and how to do things. And I was like, I guess this is who I am now. Like, I sort of made peace with it. Like, I might never get it back. I need to develop other hobbies. And as it less intellectual ones. And I was like, okay, and then it slowly kind of started coming back, and it was amazing. Like, oh, look at how I can connect thoughts again. This is fun. It took a long time, especially having 2 kids. Like it took a while. I wasn't sure.
I get really excited now because I WeTransfer a lot of stuff and the email pops up and I can remember the 6 numbers. Whereas if you'd asked me to do that, like either when pregnant or like maybe even like 2-3 years ago, I'd be like, I need to have them both up. Like, got to look at it. Like, they're the first 2 numbers. Yep, 7, 6, good. Okay. Oh, what were the... Was that an 8? Okay, yeah, an 8. And now I'm like, wow, I can remember 6 numbers.
In a row.
Winning. Yeah. Absolutely winning.
Yeah.
Ria, please tell us then. Let's fire this off with the big ending, which it could be something really horrible and depressing. I don't know because I've not looked it up. Lightning
it's
Crotch.
hilarious.
It's hilarious. That's what you want to end on. We've had some ups and downs. We've had some
Thank
incredibly
God
passionate stories.
it's not about, I don't know, losing some part of you. I thought it was a joke when he asked, so I'm actually really curious.
So we'd talked about it in a different group Mike, Dan, and Megan and I had talked about it in a different group in the run-up to this conversation about pregnancy stuff, and I was like, surely everybody knows about lightning crotch. Turns out people do not. So lightning crotch is, you tend to get it from about like the halfway mark, and it will be a sharp, sudden pain either in your vagina or in your pelvis. And the first time it happens, you go, I don't know what the fuck that was. That was mad. Do you want to go on Google and find out I'm, about to go on the madness that is WebMD and find out that like I've got some weird rare disease? But I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to ignore it. It's just a weird pregnancy thing. Keeps on happening, and you Google it, you find out it's lightning crotch, which is basically, it's just where the baby puts pressure on the nerves in your pelvis, but it results in a short, people say short, wasn't for me, pain in your vagina. Just ongoing. You'll just be there, just enjoying some tacos. Just Taco Tuesday.
That's an interesting choice of food, and you chose the one that is often the colloquial slang.
That's part of why I wore the belt, Ria. Because it takes the pressure off the nerves.
Takes the pressure, but the space between your butthole and your vagina, it's really nice when the nerves there get hit by lightning crotch, and it is literally like being struck by lightning. You just be sat there.
See, this isn't hysterical. What's the funny part?
Yes, that's kind of sad.
It is hilarious.
Just sudden
makes me want to cry.
Unbearable pain for
I'll tell everybody about it, and I'd be like, they'd be like, you're right. Oh, it's just my lightning crotch playing up.
It's a funny name.
This is why people don't tell people about it before they have kids, Megan. Because we don't want to be like, oh, and doesn't it sound fun? I mean,
the thing is that I want to know all of this stuff. Like, I like hearing. I like hearing about it. I also like being able to connect the dots for other people. Like, so Chloe and Jasmine, they respectively have their own cats. But at the same time, all of the cats were just pissing in the house. Like, for some reason, all of the cats were pissing. And it's because of the hormones. Male cats react with the hormones in pregnant people, and it makes them piss everywhere. So I was talking to Jasmine, and then she told me that Cubby had been peeing in the house, and then she found out that it was the hormonal thing. And then like a week later, Chloe was like, oh, for God's sake, Alan and Seymour keep peeing in the house. And I was like, it's a thing. I was like, you're both pregnant, it's a thing. Then I told her, and she was like, for God's sake. She was like, I literally can't do anything about it. They're just going to keep peeing.
I mean,
it's
that's most of pregnancy. You can't do anything about it. It's just going to keep on happening. Right?
And you're not going to get all of these things. This is sort of like the bingo.
Lightning crotch is great. It was
Lightning
painful.
crotch is great.
But it was painful, but it was also hilarious. You just be sat there and I'm like, I've just got a little electric shock in my vagina.
I refer to the Moon Knight podcast, and I think that's a little insight into why Ria thought this is enjoyable. And we're getting every now and then a podcast. You didn't talk about the side of you very much, but every now and then a little thing comes out. Oh, handcuffs, chain up. Yeah, I wouldn't be worried about a man who's got handcuffs and sand all around his bed. That would be fine.
Tie up us guys.
Well, it's because
I would. He's delightful and sexy. He's charming.
And you weren't having sex, so lightning crotch was sort of like adjacent.
Oh, maybe.
Your body was rebelling. I'll do it myself.
Like, your body's so weird when you're pregnant. Your body is so strange, and so many things happen. My feet grew a whole extra size that didn't go down for 2 years. So now I've got a whole bunch of shoes I can't wear because they're too big, and I've got rid of the whole bunch of shoes that were too small. And it's so mad. And then you're like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? And then you have something happen to you, go, that's really strange. And you find out it's called lightning crotch. You're like, I'm going to take the goods in this. It's called lightning crotch. It's hilarious. Every time it happens, I'm going to tell somebody, and I'm going to brighten up their day. There you go.
Well, that is absolutely perfect. That's a great way to end it. So we did give lots of big plugs at the start for your amazing content, but please tell people where they can find you. Alyson first. Obviously, I'll put links in the description. Megan, you yawned at the wrong time.
I'm sorry.
Just before Alyson starts talking about
late.
herself, that's not the
It's
way
late.
to support.
We've done 2 hours and it's
15 minutes.
Is
It's
this
a
a
school night.
two-parter?
It is. Yeah, it will be a
Is this a
two-parter.
two-part? Okay.
Patrons get access to all of it at once, but
Get excited.
On my YouTube
Patrons.
as well, it'll be in full, but that'll be on part 2 drops. But yes, Alyson, I'll put links in the description, but please tell people who are too lazy to check the show notes where they can find you.
I feel like they're probably too lazy then to type in a website, but AlysonShelton.com, ALYSONSHELTON. Everything is on there. Also, reburncomic.com. You can still order copies digitally or physical copies. And Elise McCall was on Genuine Chit-Chat, and she's tremendous. And you should check out Reburn Comic, and on Instagram at by Alyson Shelton.
And you do some incredible Instagram lives with the
Yes, I do.
poetry and things, and then a
And you're
self-plug.
going to join me.
Yes, I do. It's in less than 2 months, isn't it? So
So I don't
where
know
I'm
when
from.
this is going up, but yeah.
This will be a couple weeks, I think. Not next
Yeah.
week after. So
So it'll
yeah.
be in February. So then the next month, Mike's going to join me and share a poem. So tune in. And Ria has, and it was wonderful. And we talked a lot about postnatal depression.
We did, yes. Did.
So Ria, where can people find you and things?
At Ria Carrogan on Instagram. Don't bother finding me on Twitter because, as Alyson so beautifully put it quite recently, I'm a ghost on Twitter, and it's true. Like, that place is on fire. So go find me there. Femme on Collective. We're awesome. Femme on Pod. Come and listen to us. Join us. Talk to us. Tell us what you want to talk about. Come and be on our shows. Give us ideas. It's supposed to be fun and creative and awesome. Megan, you're going to come on and talk to me about Bridgerton for Femme on TV.
Yeah.
The more I say it, the more it will manifest.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and it's just a wonderful space. So come and join us.
Fantastic. I'll put links in the description. You can find me at Genuine Chit-Chat on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. I'll put my link tree and stuff in the description. And Megan, where can people find you?
Instagram. Grits Gets Fit.
And
Oh, Patreon.
we don't have to do the whole plug there. I just want you.
And a variety of different podcasts because I seem to just pop up everywhere.
Yeah, because we always say that Megan is a podcaster, even though she said in Disney discussions that she wasn't.
Depends on my mood as to
offended
whether I
all of us.
identify as a podcaster.
Wherever the moon is in the sky will depend if I'm truly a podcaster.
It depends. It depends.
It depends. But thank you so much, Alyson and Ria, and also to my nameless friend, as well as Maff and Amanda, and as well as my friend Jasmine. You've all been so incredible sharing your stories and...
No thanks
all
for
of-
Megan.
Well, I mean, I appreciate you being here, but you haven't shared a pregnancy story. So that's specifically what I was thanking everyone for.
Am I here?
You are here. I appreciate you being here and co-hosting to a degree, but it was...
That's all I want to hear, Michael.
That's it. I appreciate, but don't worry, everyone. I appreciate Megan as well. But to everyone else involved in this conversation, thank you so much for everything you contributed about the stories and just teaching people a bit more about pregnancy. And the main thing to take away from this is talk to people, respect yourself, and do not feel any shame. It's
Do
the
what
most
you
natural
want.
thing. Most natural thing you can do. Whereas it's pregnancy, childbirth itself, raising a kid. Do what's best for you, who you love. It's all your good intentions. That's what you got to do. And so thank you, friends, for coming on the show. Once again, thank you for all the listeners tuning in, and we will speak to you all very soon.